You need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Welcome in, folks. It is time for a little bit of racing here in the YumTwo College Cup Series tonight. We go to one of the most famous tracks in all of stock car racing, Darlington, South Carolina. It is the virtual Darlington Raceway here in Darlington, South Carolina. And this is going to be a fun one. Only 3 races left here in the YumTwo College Cup Series here tonight. It's the Burning Hearts and Rubber 200 presented by the Longland Corporation. And this very well might be the race where we start to get a grasp on who will be crowned champion of Season 13. For everyone here at the CIL, along with co-commentator Brad Daniels, producer Lee Kane in the booth. Brad, welcome in for another night of racing here in the YumTwo College Cup Series. And Darlington, always one of those tracks where you can't race the other cars on the racetrack necessarily. You got to just focus on racing the track because that alone is difficult enough.
Yeah, I think tonight's the biggest test for a lot of these drivers and their competencies on these oval circuits. I mean, you know, we went to Road Atlanta, which is definitely just an outside-the-box track for these next-gen cars, but when it comes to Darlington, it's such a driver's track that, you know, everyone has to pretty much figure it out on their own, and if you don't got it, you don't got it. And I know a couple drivers we've seen in the past, like Nanny, and, you know, a lot of these other drivers, like Schollenberger, I can remember back, I think Edwin Nofre as well, have been pretty fast here time in, time out again. But, you know, Darlington does surprisingly, you know, have a good track record in the CIL, at least for as many times as it's been on the schedule, along with a lot of the action you'll see here, you know, in Darlington.
Yeah, and it's also been home to some of the most unbelievable finishes we've had in this series. I always think back to the first time I broadcasted a Darlington race here in the YumTwo College Cup Series, Season 7. It was Connor Levy, R. Muhammad Alif going door-to-door through 3 and 4, nearly wiped each other out at the line. Connor Levy slides across it basically sideways for the win. Truly one of the great finishes of this series, very reminiscent of Busch Craven 03. And it truly was just one of those things where maybe we get lucky again here tonight and we get some crazy finish coming to the end, but Darlington just has that ability to create some magic in the closing laps here, because this is a track that is so difficult to win at anytime you come here. But before we get too far down the rabbit hole for Darlington, let's see the rest of the schedule. There's not much left here, folks. Only 3 races remain in this YumTwo College Cup Series season. Darlington Auto Club next week, and then Kansas on the 1st of December to finish out this season. Brad, what a season it's been, and what 3 tracks to wrap up the year. I mean, couldn't ask for a better slate to finish the season.
A heck of a combo, and especially for these next-gen cars, I think they're going to show out on these final 3 races. Darlington is always tricky no matter what you bring to the track, but, you know, these next-gen cars have a great time here along with the CIL. So, yet again, we're back here in Darlington, South Carolina. But, you know, Auto Club and Kansas, 2 other tracks that we've just seen a lot of, you know, great racing at, also a lot of calamity, and especially, you know, for the end of the season, those 2 tracks can really just throw people for a loop when it comes to, you know, battling for a championship or anywhere in the standings, you know, trying to just end out your fall 2025 season here in the YumTwo College Cup Series.
Yeah, and you talk a little bit about trying to end the season on a strong note. Coming to the end of this season, we've got ourselves a fascinating title hunt battle right now, particularly through 3 drivers: Sean Campbell, Brandon Schulenberger, Daniel Nanny, Edwin Onofre, Jake Cummings, kind of still in the hunt, but need some really big finishes over the next couple weeks, I think, to really give themselves a chance come Kansas. Campbell, though, wins last week. He picks up his 3rd win in 4 races, goes back-to-back Martinsville, then Kentucky, finds himself now with a 20-point lead coming into tonight's race over Brandon Schulenberger and about, say, 30 over Daniel Nanny, who has been really, really good at this racetrack. I think this is a perfect get-right race for the 30. But, Brad, of these 3 coming into tonight, who do you like of Campbell, Schulenberger, and Nanny? We know Campbell's been wicked fast the past few weeks. We know Nanny historically is so good at this racetrack. And then Brandon Schulenberger just seems to be in the hunt just about everywhere we go this year. Maybe he hasn't had the race winning pace at a lot of these places, but he's been in the top 5 so regularly that he's been able to capitalize on a lot of these guys' misfortunes when it's come up. So who do you like going into tonight of that trio who's really in the thick of this title hunt?
I really like Daniel Nanny. I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, Nanny has always seemed to be fast here in Darlington, and of the 3 races remaining, this race is the only one that he's previously won. Still fast at Kansas and Auto Club, but nonetheless, I mean, he has that experience here in Darlington to at least win a race in South Carolina. So, nonetheless, I think if Nanny really wants to get into this title hunt and just battle it out with Schulenberger and Sean Campbell, he's going to have to start tonight. And I don't say it's desperation on his end. I think that's more for maybe Jake Cummings and Edwin Onofre if you kind of are getting desperate, and you don't want to be desperate when it comes to Darlington. But nonetheless, I think Nanny has a great odds to end up in front of the other 2 tonight. Sean Campbell, I think we keep counting him out, I feel like, at these pre-race shows, and then he ends up on, we talk to him after the race. So obviously 3 of the last 4 wins have gone to the 9, so I can't really count him out as well. And I think the wild card's just Schulenberger too. Just, he's been consistent this season compared to years prior, and we'll see if the 7 can keep on doing it.
Yeah, and that 2-year point really has been the case. We haven't talked about a 9 maybe as much as we should, even though he is your points leader. He's won 3 of the last 4 races, but coming into this season and through the first, say, month and a half, he was kind of a non-factor, kind of bouncing around the 10th to 15th area a lot of weeks, was putting in some decent runs, but nothing super head turning. And then we hit Road Atlanta, where he sets this historic record for margin of victory in a CIL win on the YumTwo College Cup Series side, and we're like, oh, what a win. And it helped kind of revitalize his season because he follows that up with a podium at Homestead and then back-to-back wins here, Martinsville and Kentucky. And the dude has just rocketed to the top of the point standings in basically a month from being, fluctuating at the edge of the top 10, really going into this past 4 races. It's hard to bet against the guy who's been as fast as he's been over the past few weeks, but I don't know. Darlington's one of those tracks where it's so... You can't be more than an inch off at 90% of this racetrack. Otherwise, you're going to either end up in the wall or into the car next to you. It's an incredibly difficult place to race. So I'm really excited to see how that shapes up. Qualifying happening right now. We'll have that grid for you in just a moment. But before we do, I want to thank the people who make this series possible week in, week out. Without them, there would be no racing here on Monday nights in the CIL. So I want to give a big shout out to our friends over at ECAC Esports. Our dear friends there are adding great value to their member schools by enhancing the competitive experience for hundreds of students seeking to participate in intercollegiate esports. So a big shout out to ECAC Esports for that one. Additionally, I want to give a thank you to Whiplash SimCams and iRacing and Esports Media Group, specializing in racing and team graphics, iRacing camera packs, and other broadcasting resources. To our season-long title sponsor, YumTwo. Cooking is better when it's shared. YumTwo is the new couples cooking app that makes meals fun, interactive, and stress-free with personalized recipes, meal planning, and step-by-step cooking guides. YumTwo helps couples bond through food. You can join the waitlist now at yumtwo.com. That's YUMTWO.com. And to tonight's title sponsor, the Napa Longland Corporation. For your car, truck, and SUV and heavy-duty needs, visit Napa and get the Napa know-how. The URL on the screen is the link to the Longland Napa out there in Colorado. Big thank you to them for their season-long support of our white flag, as well as sponsoring the race here tonight. That, of course, being the Burning Hearts and Rubber 200 presented by the Longland Corporation. And with that, it's just about time, I think, for us to jump into the grid in just a second here. It looks like the transition from qualifying to the 5-minute warm-up underway. So maybe I went through the sponsors about 5 seconds too early, but you know, sometimes that's just the way to go. You feel like you got it timed down to a T, and you know, not quite. But oh, also shout out the Collegiate iRacing League website if you haven't already checked it out. All the information on all the series here in the CIL, plus information on how to join, available at collegiateiRacingLeague.com. That is collegiateiRacingLeague.com. But that is going to take us into tonight's starting grid here in the YumTwo College Cup Series. And lo and behold, it is Daniel Nanny, Sean Campbell on the front row. The two names you were talking about at the top of the show, the 30 with a 28.712, tonight's fast time. He'll take the pole. Sean Campbell, the points leader, to his outside, only 300ths off in that UNC Greensboro machine. Back in row number 2, it's Jake Cummings coming into tonight 5th in the standings. He's looking for a big run in that Converse University machine. Brian Ferwetta, podium a couple weeks ago for Embry-Riddle. He's looking to get on the podium for the second time here tonight. Our third row will be Saddleback College's John Forbes Jr., as well as Baruch College's Edward Sanchez. Row number 4, it is Brandon Schulenberger coming into tonight second in points. He'll roll off 7th in the number 7 for Wingate. Tyler Skozen for UNOH rolls off in the 8th position. And in row number 5, it'll be King's College's Doug Newbinging alongside Clint Halterman for UNC Charlotte, and a throwback to his first ever CIL win back in Season 7.
In row 6, we have Logan Smith from Auburn University. To his outside, Kelton Quick from Ball State. In 13th, we have Logan's teammate in Reese Bayham from Auburn. To his outside, Matthew Norberg from North Carolina State. In row 8, we have Edwin Onofre, 4th in points currently from the University of North Texas. To his outside, Drew Williams from Clemson. Row 9, Andrew Burrell from Clemson. And to his outside, Austin DeLong from the Penn College of Technology. And rounding out your top 20 here tonight, it is the 72 of Connor Zabosian from Kettering, and to his outside, Brendan Lyman from the Oklahoma Panhandle State University.
Looking back to row number 11 tonight, it's Trey Lamprecht from the Texas A&M University San Antonio. Cade Corbin for the University of Alabama in Huntsville rolls off in the 22nd spot. Looking at 23rd, it's Ball State's Ben Neller in the 79 machine. Riley Berkins from New England College rolls off 24th. Aaron Brown, winner earlier this year, will roll off in the 25th position in that 16 machine. Ronan Suarez from Santa Monica College rolls off 26th. To the inside of row 14, it's Wesley Shaw from Texas A&M University Texarkana. Zach Tallman from the Penn College of Technology rolls off to the outside there in that 71 machine. And rounding out your top 30 here tonight on the grid, it's Roger Primo from Paul Smith's College and the University of Tennessee's Ethan Head in that number 8 machine.
Row 16, we got Ryan Smith from Auburn. To his outside, Robbie Hotchkiss from New England College. Starting in 33rd, Josh Camp from Kansas State University. Lee Winters from Vincennes University lines out to his outside. In 35th, we have Madison Ulrich from Otterbein University. To the outside of Madison, it is Jack Wilson from the University of North Georgia. And your final row here, which I believe is only the 37th position, of Nick Stockner in a beautiful new Clemson paint scheme.
They're looking sharp there for the 124, so 37 cars ready to go here tonight. Should be a fun one from Darlington. Well, we got a second. We'll see if Producer Lee, do we have a track map that we can show the folks at home? All right, let's take a quick look here at the track map for Darlington, one of the most unique venues in all stock car racing. Brad, obviously when it comes to this place, the first thing that we talk about, turns 1 and 2, not the same as turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, you got to just run them it's not two completely different corners, but still, you can't do the same exact thing going into one as you're going into three. You can see this track has been around since 1950. Nothing has changed too much from Darlington. As you can see, the lady in black, it's pretty much just been on the, I'm pretty sure, the NASCAR schedule since 1950 as well. So it's a long time feature in real life and in the CIL as well. So this one in a little bit over third mile track has a lot to give to these drivers, but a lot to take as well.
Yeah, it is certainly a menacing track to say the least, but it should be a fun one for these folks to do battle on here tonight. The Lady in Black, the track too tough to tame, the track with a million nicknames, all better than the one before it. This place is a lot of fun and one of the iconic venues for a reason. And a fun little fact about it, part of the reason it's shaped the way it is what is now the apron was supposed to be the racing surface, and the runoff is actually the banking to keep kind of cars contained. And then people pretty quickly realized, oh, if I just go on the banking, I can go a lot faster through the corners. And they've been racing on the banking ever since. So with that, we will take you live to the current track shot here for Darlington Raceway. Just about time to get going. Opportunity for a quick race analysis on your screen here in just a moment. Be a fun one here tonight, running the iRacing fixed setup as always, as we get tuned up for about 150 laps of racing here tonight in Darlington, South Carolina.
Got 150 laps here in the race tonight. That's going to equal out to about 200 miles for these stock cars, and nonetheless, you know, these tire sets are going to go away pretty quickly for these drivers. If it's one thing to say here in Darlington, you know, the tires matter, and especially worn tires feel a lot worse than those fresh ones compared to a lot of other tracks. So these drivers are going to be trying to use every percent of their tires that they can and try to not, you know, burn through them here in the early stages of the race. And Alex, you know, when it comes to Darlington, you know, we could talk about pit strategy or anything like that, but I think just entering pit road and everything that has to do with, you know, if there's a green flag cycle is just so difficult here because the apron is so large, but at the same time you can see everyone's squeezed up here until they have to go on the pit road.
Yeah, this track is more apron than racetrack, and one of the other unique things particular to iRacing about this venue is the fact that because the racing line is so tight through the corners, if a car wrecks but washes down to that apron, they're considered out of the racing line because of how narrow the groove is here. So we may see a couple of cars spin without a yellow being thrown just by the nature of what iRacing deems the racing line or not. And something to keep an eye on here tonight as we get going, as cars are trying to get caught up here to the field. On board, I believe, Ryan Smith, as we're catching the tail end of the pack here. But 37 cars ready to rock and roll here tonight for the third to last race of season 13. Darlington, one of those crown jewel type tracks. Everyone wants to say that they've tamed the track too tough to tame. And we're going to find out who's got what it takes here in just a moment as the field off of turn 4 into the restart zone for the first time tonight. Green flags in the air, and we are racing at the Lady in Black. As they make their way off of turn 4, the pole sitter takes control up at the front of the field. He's got control here. Nanny, Campbell, Cummings, Forbes, and Sanchez, your top 5 as they've settled out here in the front field. Darlington has a unique nature of really stringing this field out single file in a hurry because it's so tough to run here side by side, Brad.
And you could see everyone, you know, further on back, it was kind of a calamity, it seemed like, after everyone was following each other into the wall. And since, you know, you're in this single file line, that it is hard to not, you know, run into the wall when the car in front of you does the same thing. So you can see pretty much now it's only a battle for the 9th place position. It's Tyler Schoes and Kelton Quick for 8th, actually. As you can see, Kelton Quick is able to get right in front of the ONOH machine and now able to take that 8th place position. But it looks like there's now a battle for third potentially between John Forbes Jr., Jakes Cummings right now coming through 3 and 4 nose to nose. And as you said, Alex, it's so hard to, even on these fresh tires, battle here at any quarter that, it's just, you got to figure it out, try to make that move as fast as possible and, relieve your nerves, if anything.
Yeah, this is a track where if you don't make a move in about the first 7 laps, dare I say, you really need to sit back and conserve as much tire as you can to get an advantage later in a run, because this place will absolutely grate the tires up if you're not careful, and then you'll start really suffering trying to get that car to rotate, especially through turn 1 and 2 with how narrow that line is. See there, Kelton Quick and Matthew Nordberg. Good little battle there. Ball State has won the past 2 races here at Darlington, going back to season 10 with Daniel Nanny and season 11 with our Muhammad Alif. Matthew Nordberg looking for that first win still, but he has run really well at this place with that iconic finish between Alif and Connor Levy of Arizona State back in season 7. It was Nordberg who ended up second as he got to the line before Alif did when the 14 and the 12 collected each other off of 4. So Nordberg knows how to get it done here at Darlington. Off to a strong start here in the 9th spot as we see a couple of Auburn Tigers here in 12th and 13th. That's Logan Smith and Reese Bayham through 1 and 2.
You can see a little further on back some people hitting the wall there, and that's Austin DeLong slightly hitting the wall. Looks like Cade Corbin looks to the inside a little bit of the Panhandle machine, but it looks like Brennan Lyman is still going to keep it to the inside of the 222. Those two nose to nose coming through 3 and 4, and these exits, you got to keep careful because that car can snap on you real quick if you're getting a little bit too giddy on the throttle. And you can see these, the drivers prefer to go under that white dash line going in the 1 and 2 and let the car drift up towards the wall. Obviously, you don't want to drift up too far, as you can see a lot of these people already getting the Darlington stripe on their car. As that's pretty much the most iconic thing, I think, if you come race here in Darlington, is that Darlington stripe and running up against the wall. It's just, it feels like you're running a 600-mile race when you're only running a 100-mile race.
Yeah, it is one of those deals where the Darlington stripe, I think, is a little polarizing because on one hand, you really don't want to be putting your car into the wall if you can help it. But also with Darlington, especially in 1 and 2, with how close you need to run to the wall to get everything out of the car on that side of the racetrack, if you don't clip the wall at least once, you could arguably say that you aren't pushing the car hard enough to try to get every bit of speed you can out of that corner. It's really a fascinating battle between man and machine in this racetrack. And we'll see here, that is Drew Williams in the 123. He's up to the 9th position now around Matthew Nordberg. Kelton Quick up to 8th as they're trying to reel in Brandon Schulenberger, who started 7th, still running in that 7th spot here on the lap number 9.
And there was a lot of cars on the beginning of this race with an EOL or even from pit road, and some others got damaged. You saw Doug Newbigging had to come out of pit road. I believe that's from damage, but nonetheless, I mean, a lot of these cars got set back pretty far in the pack, and with everyone, and you can see he's coming down pit road yet again, actually. But back to what I was saying, these drivers have to just think, if it's going to be so hard to pass, you got to start thinking, hey, is this going to stay green? Do I have to think about a pit strategy when a lot of these races so far in the CIL haven't had to worry about green flag pit stops? That's just on the top of the mind. A lot of the drivers, obviously we're only 10 laps in. I'm not going to overstep my boundaries here, but nonetheless, a lot of everyone's single file seem to getting used to the tire, and this is where the fall off is definitely going to start happening here, Alex.
Yeah, they've got enough laps in here where you're going to start seeing the handling just start to slip away from these race cars a little bit. And we're really going to see who did a good job conserving their stuff in the opening couple laps and didn't get the tires too hot trying to make some of those early moves. And we'll start seeing those pace differences really start to accordion over the next, say, 15, 20 laps as those tires start to settle in at different, really different lengths of longevity here, depending on which car in the field you see. There's Lyman and Zabosian going the battle here for the 16th position. 78 clipping the wall just a little bit through 1 and 2 as they make their way off the corner. And a little bit more contact there. 78 getting, oh boy, that's Ben Neller in the background there in the 79. Hammered the wall off of turn 2. We were just talking about how the 78 got a little bit of it. Boy, the 79 really gave it a good touch as he was coming off of turn 2. Luckily, though, for him, it looks like that car is still in good shape, and he'll settle back in here just outside the top 20.
You can see that, Clint Holtzman also still back there climbing through the field right now. Some of these drivers, trying to make their way through the field. Not too many big climbers, though, as we see this battle for 16th now between Brendan Lyman, Connor Zabosian going through 3 and 4. Zabosian sends it in there right on the inside of the Panhandle machine. That's going to be able... I thought he was going to be able to slide up in, but it looks like the 78 is able to pass on by, has the momentum down the front stretch, and now has that position back and able to claim it. Wow, that was a very good outcome from turn 4 going into turn 1. The 78 was able to use all that momentum, and there's not much of a draft effect here in Darlington. Obviously, any draft helps, but at the same time, it's not a necessity, nor will it make you too much faster. And it might actually cause you to have a little bit of aero push, and the least you want to worry about here is how your car is handling, and more just keeping yourself consistent, keeping the tires under you, and nonetheless making sure the right side of your car is not all bruised up.
And to that point, Brad, this is, one of the big things with the next gen is how the aero works on this car. As you see Zabosian try to look back to the inside here of Lyman going on the backstretch. Might have an opportunity in the 3. But the aero is so critical to these next gen cars at most tracks that they go to, especially of this size or larger. But Darlington, with the way it's shaped, you're almost less worried about the aero as you're more worried about the mechanical grip of the race car and how much you can get it to rotate without sliding through the corner and burning up your stuff. And I think that's part of the reason why the drivers really enjoy this racetrack, is it's a much more of a driver challenge in a way, being able to save those tires versus just trying to block out the back and keep the dirty air on the car behind you. As you see Cade Corbin now take a peek to the inside. He'll take that spot away. Lyman going for the over-under, though, back off of 4.
And obviously, Lyman was able to back off a little bit going into 3 and got that run coming out of 4. Got that position right back for 17th. And we're going back, looking back at the leaders here, nothing much has really happened since the opening couple of laps. Daniel Nanny only a half-second ahead of Sean Campbell, John Forbes Jr., Jake Cummings, Edward Sanchez rounds out your top 5. You can see as we're scrolling through the top 10 here, mostly everyone here is pretty, started in the top 10 outside of Drew Williams. Drew Williams started in the 16th position, up to 9th now, up 7 positions towards the front half of the field. So the Clemson machine trying to make his way through the field. And right behind him, Matthew Norberg, who started 14th, got passed by Drew, but nonetheless still climbing. And you can see really Clemson, both him and Nick Stockner are making their way through the field. Obviously Stockner starting in that last position. Really he started from the bottom, and that's, you can only go up from there. So the 124 doing a good job of doing just that.
Yeah, he's up to the 24th position now on the racetrack after starting 37th here tonight, so not a bad drive at all so far for Nick Stockner getting this thing going in the early 20 laps or so, give or take. And one thing I think it's important to note here as far as our championship battle is concerned with Nanny, Campbell, and Schulenberger, and to an extent, Jake Cummings, Edwin Onofre. Obviously, no one's had a hotter hand in the series lately than Sean Campbell, who currently runs second, about 6/10 off of race leader Daniel Nanny. But the last time we came to this racetrack, Brad, it was our Muhammad Alif who got the win. But second, third, fourth, Daniel Nanny, Brandon Schulenberger, Jake Cummings. And then Edwin Onofre put together a very respectable 7th place run the last time we were here. So this is a really good track for all of these guys. So just because Sean Campbell's got the momentum right now doesn't necessarily make this a lock that he's going to gain a ton of points, if any, here tonight. He's really going to have to execute all evening long. And speaking of that, he is under pressure right now. Saddleback College's John Forbes Jr. filling up the mirror a little bit as they make their way off of turn 2 down the back straightaway.
I was going to say the one name you didn't say there was John Forbes Jr. Obviously, I think this is the first time he's been to Darlington with the CIL, and obviously has the speed to prove so, as he's sending it in there in the 3 and 4, keeping on the back bumper of the UNCG machine. And you can see he gets a low loose coming out of 4, actually, and able to stay up with the 9. Has been in this little bubble just about 5/10 ahead of Jake Cummings, but right behind Sean Campbell to give him a little bit of pressure, but not too much. The 11 trying to, turn up the pressure a little bit on Sean Campbell, but Sean has been very cool and collected these past 4 races. Obviously, with those 3 wins and 4 podiums, you basically have to at least be some sort of cool, calm, and collected. So, the lady in black treating these drivers nicely so far. As we're looking back further on, there's a little bit of action. It looks like for the 11th place position between Tyler Schoes and Logan Smith. Skozen's able to keep that spot away from the Auburn machine as they're coming through 1 and 2 yet again.
Oh, and big contact off of turn 4 for Jack Wilson in the 925. He got loose off of turn 4, got a piece of the inside retaining wall. He kept that car pointed the right direction, but it was a hard hit for the UNG machine. So we watch this battle here. That's a no fray trying to sit in front of Reese Bayham. There's Jack Wilson, who I think is bringing it back down pit road here. You can see heavy left front damage. And there is the replay here of what happened to this car. Yeah, just lost it off the corner. And a little bit of contact there. Left front caved in pretty noticeably.
And like you said earlier, Alex, I mean, these drivers, once they go off that main avenue for the racing is happening, they aren't going to throw a caution, because really anything that happens on that apron is free game as long as it doesn't end up right in front of the pit stalls or anything else. So, you know, a lot of these drivers, if they get loose, they're just going to have to deal with the damage. And I know, at least from experience driving this track, it is a pain sometimes to, you know, try.
Nordberg and Skozen gets into it. The 076 trying to get back up to speed. We need to see a replay of this. Didn't want to cut you off, Brad, but this was an unbelievable bit of contact between NC State and UNOH. Watch this going through 1 and 2, leaning on each other, into the wall, back into each other. Then contact there with Logan Smith. Boy, Matthew Nordberg's machine lucky to keep that thing in one piece. And we stay green because that car still pointed in the correct direction. But, oh, boy, that was a close call.
No, I mean, we almost got to the point where I was saying, you know, that you don't want to run with a damaged race car. And obviously, Matthew Nordberg is not going to deal with that as he's bringing the 076 down pit road. You could just see how wide this track is, how much asphalt there is, and there's pit road entry. And I've actually taken a tumble into those barrels once or maybe once in a CIL race, but we're not going to talk about that. Nonetheless, it's a little tricky to get on this pit road if you're not accustomed to it. So, you know, we're through 27 laps, and it looks like a couple cars are currently, you know, starting to get in the way of these lead lap drivers, which is another whole different set of circumstances trying to get around lap traffic. As you can see, Robbie Hotchkiss up into the wall. And Ryan Smith right in front of Sean Campbell now. Campbell's going to have to try and get around the 82. Actually, he gets out of the way for the 9. And you can see everyone just trying to get around these lap cars as they can.
And that's the thing with Darlington is, like, you get the track position and you're like, great, because passing here is really difficult. And then once you have the track position, you catch lap traffic on a run like this and you go, oh boy, here we go again. Luckily, you know you've got the speed to make something work, but I mean, it doesn't matter if you're fighting for position or putting someone a lap down. There's just not a whole lot of room to operate through the corners at this racetrack, especially in 1 and 2, which is very much about a 1 lane, maybe 1.5 lane groove through that corner. So it gets really tricky trying to work through lap traffic there, but it looks like they were able to get through that initial wave of it all right. You see here, this is Drew Williams, Connor Zabosian, Reese Bayham. This is basically the battle from 11th on back to 15th, Cade Corbin. They're all stacked up there behind the 123. Austin DeLong putting together a nice little run here in the 222. He's up from 18th now to 10th.
We talked about Drew a little earlier, but it looks like he might have used up a lot of that tire as he gets hard into the inside wall coming out of 2. That's going to open the door for Connor Zabozi and the Kettering machine. He's going to dive it down into 3 and 4 and clear the 123. Reese Bayham also right there, able to get to the inside corner panel, but not able to get alongside. Drew right now falling like a rock after having that momentous rocket of a start. He's kind of, you know, falling back slowly, and the 123 might be hoping for a caution any time now, because it seems like he might have burnt his stuff up a lot earlier than a lot of these other drivers as he hits the wall yet again.
Yeah, he's having a really tough time getting that car to rotate off of turn 2. There goes Reese Bayham. Logan Smith's going to try to do the same here in turns 3. He'll clear. Cade Corbin trying to make it a 3-for-1 special. That might be just a little too much to ask. He'll be side by side with the 123 here across the stripe. But boy, yeah, that Clemson machine going to let him go in the turn 1. I think Drew Williams is just trying to nurse that thing around until he has the opportunity to bring it down pit road, because it does not seem to be rotating well off the corner. Hits it again there off of turn 2, and the frustrations, I'm sure, mounting for the Clemson driver and the Season 8 champ just through the nature of having that car with about 3 stripes and 3 laps here. But 33 laps down so far here at Darlington. Daniel Nanny continues the pace this field, just about half a second to 0.6 clear of Sean Campbell, John Forbes Jr., Jake Cummings, Edward Sanchez, your top 5 at the moment. For Weta, Schulenberger, Skosen, Onofre, and DeLong. Currently your top 10 as they run. And Brad, you were doing the math a little bit earlier. We're expecting it's still going to be a long way for fuel to necessitate a pit stop here if we go green the whole way. However, would drivers start considering coming in earlier for tires at the rate we're going here?
Yeah, I think an undercut is, it's a very good option here in Darlington. I mean, compared to a lot of other tracks, you can see we have 4 additional sets. So right now, averaging about 30 laps a set. But I don't think the drivers are worried about that right now, as long as they can, keep cooking on these tires. If their tires are cooked like you are Drew Williams, you might consider getting in before a lot of these other drivers and maybe, setting some better lap times. And right now, I believe the pace has fallen off about a second or so. So you're not, gaining too much at this moment. But if we keep going green for another 30 laps, these tires are going to be just basically bricks on these cars, and they're going to be, holding these drivers back unless they come down pit road and put on a fresh set of rubbers.
Yeah, and it's been one of those deals that we see. Oh, Brian Ferwetta battling for 5th with Edward Sanchez here. They're side by side through 1 and 2. Fun little battle between Embry Riddle and Baruch, as Sanchez going to fight him off on the outside here. But boy, Ferwetta got right to the door in the apex of 1 and 2. It's a fun little battle. We'll keep an eye on as Schulenberger has worked his way into the picture here. This is 5th, 6th, and 7th all converging. But to your point there, Brad, times on the racetrack have dropped anywhere from about 0.7 to about 1.1 second, depending on the driver, it looks like. So that fall off starting to become noticeable, and especially for the folks at the back who might need an opportunity to, really spark something here. Definitely a consideration you might want to consider making. As we see this battle continue right now, Schulenberger laying in wait behind Ferwetta, who's about 2 car lengths back of Sanchez through 3 and 4.
And another, strategy, staying out longer here. I mean, it's going to be harder for those fresher tires to get around people, and that also means that they're just wasting that new fresh rubber on the tires. So nonetheless, you have a lot of different options. If you stay out later, you could potentially hold up some other competitors, but at the same time, if you come in earlier, you can just set some burners and try to, catch up on those people in front of you. But nonetheless, right now, coming to lap 39 in the race, you still have 110 laps to go here in Darlington. You at least want to just get, the car under you, make sure that you're understanding when you can push and what is a good pass and when is not a good time to pass. And I think right now, obviously, with all these older tires, it's just going to be so hard to see a clean pass happen. And when we saw Brian Ferwetta and Edward Sanchez fight, a couple laps ago, they were leaning on each other. And that's basically how it's going to work at this point, where, you're sliding up and the car just kind of has its mind of its own, just sliding up. And you can't really fight it too much, or else you're just going to lose all the momentum and speed that you had.
Yeah, it becomes a real balancing act between speed and stability when you get this far into a run, which is part of the fun at Darlington, because you start really seeing some people get creative as Wesley Shaw hit the wall off of 2 right in front of Brian Ferwetta, who spins now to the inside of the racetrack. He'll lock it down, get back on the gas, get back to rolling here, but he is going to lose a bunch of track position. He'll cycle in here just behind Drew Williams, it looks like. So Ferwetta down now to the 17th position. He was running 6th. Let's see if we can take another look at that. Wesley Shaw lost control right in front of that battle for 5th.
Looks like Wesley Shaw has had a little bit other troubles as well tonight, and obviously that hard hit into the wall is going to make that 73 a heck of a lot harder to drive. As we see the 73, it looks like he's trying to go to the inside. Oh, actually inside of Ben Neller, gets a little bit of contact, sends him around there.
So does he get back up to speed and then have issues again in turn 2? Because there goes Daniel Nanny, Sean Campbell, and John Forbes. Yeah, and there's the trio for 5th coming off of 4 now. So Wesley Shaw gets back up the speed, and then they get tangled up again here. Yeah, take a look at this. Sanchez gets under the 73 right at the apex of the corner. Nowhere for Ferwetta to go. Schulenberger lucky he had even the slightest bit of room to avoid getting caught up in that. And I feel like that's been the nature of Brandon Schulenberger's season, man, is just having stuff directly in front of him, but not quite being caught up in it. One more look here on board with Ferwetta, and yeah, I mean, there's just nowhere to go. Oh, no. I stand correct. Schulenberger very much got a piece of that. He just was able to keep that car pointed in the correct direction.
The front end of that car might be a little smushed, too, of Brandon Schulenberger, and I think we also saw with Wesley Shaw, his tires got scuffed enough to where he couldn't run his line that effectively. That started that whole domino effect. So that just shows you, if you mess up one time or you get in one incident, those tires are definitely going to be the death of you. And, nonetheless, you can see these two up front. Daniel Nanny got out to about 1.3 seconds ahead of Sean Campbell. John Forbes Jr. now 1.3 seconds behind Sean Campbell. Jake Cummings another second behind, and you can see these top five are very separated from each other, and you can definitely see Daniel Nanny has been doing a great job of keeping his tires cool and collected while also having the speed that outruns Sean Campbell. And as you're going down the score of the timing table here, it just seems like people are hitting the wall at the same time. But also, these drivers are also just losing out on their tires, losing out on time, and obviously once you get back to here about 7th or 8th, they're about 10 seconds, if not 12 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, it's really starting to get spaced out there. Good battle for 10th right now, though. Austin DeLong in the Penn College of Technology rocketed up from 18th to 10th. He's had that spot for a while now. And Kettering's Connor Zabosian applying some pressure here, trying to break back into the top 10. It's been going on for the past couple of laps. It's been getting close to physical here the past couple times around. Let's see what he does here off of 2. The 72 carried a lot of speed, clipped the wall just a little bit. They're going to try to go to the outside of Josh Camphor here into 3. And it looks like the 72 going to settle in right in the tire tracks of DeLong here through the corner. And this is where we really start to see who's done a good job saving their stuff this deep into a run. And that's why we're starting to see these distances really start to spread out a little bit. And I think it's really telling that we're seeing Daniel Nanny now pull away after about 45 laps. I think he's done a phenomenal job up front preserving his stuff because he hasn't had the battle as hard. And you see this battle here, up at the front, that is Daniel Nanny, and that's Kelton Quick, his teammate, who's about to put a lap down here. Kelton Quick running 20th on the racetrack, but he's about to go a lap down here. There's only 20 cars on the lead lap. Only about 32 or so who are still on the racetrack. And now Daniel Nanny goes by on the inside, puts his teammate a lap down. As we continue the forge on here, Daniel Nanny has led over 200 laps here the past 2 times out, led 130 at his win in Season 10, led him another 70 in his runner-up finish as the last time we came here 2 seasons ago. He has led every lap at the opening 49 so far. Boy, he just seems to have this place really figured out, Brad.
Yeah, and it's hard to figure this place out from, a driver's perspective. A lot of these drivers, you could see, I think, if you're outside the top 20 right now, you're probably either part of some incident or, might have hit the wall a couple times, damaging your car and making it hard to drive it around this track. And nonetheless, if you're a lap down at this point, it's hard to get back through onto that lead lap and nonetheless get back up through the field. And, not too many drivers below that 20th place position are really battling too much for, the championship. But nonetheless, these guys are still trying to win today. And a couple of them are actually in pit road trying to maybe do a little bit of an undercut. We talked about it earlier. We're a third through the race, and we're starting to think of maybe a 2-stop strategy comparative to a 1-stop strategies for a lot of these drivers. So, Sean Campbell still 2.2 seconds back, and John Forbes Jr. the same back from Sean Campbell. So these top 3, maybe we might see some altering strategies for these 3.
Well, speaking of altering strategies, the pit cycle, I believe, has properly begun now. Cade Corbin just made his stop a moment ago in the 08. He pit from a lead lap position, was running inside the top 15 when he made his stop. Now on fresh tires. Drew Williams also on pit road, but he is spending a lot of time, I believe, trying to repair some damage on the 123, which is going to properly sink him a couple laps down here. But Cade Corbin, the first car on fresh tires, trying to kick this pit cycle off. He came down pit road at around lap 49, lap 50. So he's doing that strategy you were talking about, Brad, with trying to stop twice, put some fresh tires on it. And tell you what, the lap time here, we're going to find out in a second how much faster that is for Cade Corbin. And, 29.3 compared to the leaders who their last time by ran about a 30-second flat. So even though Cade Corbin maybe not the fastest car on the racetrack in the early going here, those fresh tires are very much making him the fastest car on the racetrack by a pretty noticeable margin right now.
As I say, he's right now tracking down Sean Campbell and doing it really quickly, like you said, Alex. So the 08 obviously organically trying to get some of his laps back, and it's up to Daniel Nanny right now, I think, honestly, to see if he wants to stay out, put as many people a lap down, and maybe get a caution so he's not going to be circled out as fast. It looks like Robbie Hotch just got into the wall, and Aaron Brown was able to get around right there. But nonetheless, you can see he's just breezing on by the 9 right there. The 9's going to let him on by because he has those fresh tires and clears him in the mid corner, able to pull out to about a 2-3 car length gap through the middle of the front stretch. And then the turn 1, still, you can see how dominant those fresh tires are, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, they're absolutely unbelievable as he just breezed past points leader Sean Campbell and is just reeling in Daniel Nanny at the moment. So something to keep an eye on for sure. Ryan Smith down in the way on pit road. So there's a few cars who are starting to kind of kick this thing off. And Ryan Smith, black flag speeding on pit road, I believe on pit exit. So he'll have to make another stop down pit road. Tough break there for the 82. You see him going right back to pit entrance after leaving pit road. This is, I tell you what, for some of the races we've had this season, Brad, a welcome surprise that Darlington has kicked off the opening 56 laps green and clean.
And, I feel like I've said a lot of the time where people are trying to be hesitant, and I think how difficult Darlington can be might actually have made a lot of these drivers take a step back from trying to, get all these positions on the restarts and organically try to, stretch these green flag runs and, save the tires, maybe make their way up through consistency. Nonetheless, I think when we go to Auto Club in Kansas, you're going to see a whole different story because you could just do whatever you want at those 2 tracks compared to here. But, here in Darlington, it, shapes up a lot of different things that I honestly, like I said before, Darlington has provided in the CIL from, racecraft to overall just endings and just moments in the past. So here, in Darlington, I wasn't expecting it to be a crash fest, but at the same time, they're doing a great job right now of, keeping it clean, trying to get through these green flag runs. And we can see right now that Cade Corbin running on these fresh tires, tracking down Daniel Nanny. I'm surprised that Daniel Nanny hasn't been passed already. I think that also shows how fast the 30 is right now on those older tires. The 08 still trying to get his lap back. But nonetheless, Alex, if, you're a driver right now outside of Cade Corbin or anyone on the lead lap, really, what are you thinking? What strategy are you calling this? Are you going for a one-stop or maybe try to do an undercut right now?
Well, to my understanding, I think the fuel window was just short of halfway. I'm not sure if any of the drivers anticipated the opening 60 laps here being green. As you see Corbin now make the plunge to the inside, he'll get back on the lead lap here with that pass around Daniel Nanny. So he is back to running on the lead lap here. Currently scored he's actually still 1 lap down. He gets one of his 2 laps back. Still waiting for everyone else to cycle down pit road. But I tell you what, it's not a situation I think we anticipated, but a welcome one nonetheless. I think we are going to take a super brief commercial break. When we come back, continued coverage of tonight's race from Darlington. You won't want to miss it because, boy, is it flying by. We'll be back.
You need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
Welcome back, folks, here live from Darlington Raceway, the YumTwo College Cup Series here on the CIL YouTube channel. Lap 64 of 150 here from the famous Darlington Raceway. Daniel Nanny has led every lap since the green flag. He's got Sean Campbell, John Forbes in the hunt as well. When we went away, that was Cade Corbin, who just put himself from 2 laps down to 1 lap down on those fresh tires. And Brad, kind of surprisingly enough, no one else has taken the plunge yet.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers want to do the one-stop strategy. Obviously, the less time you spend on pit road, the better. But as we say that, caution has come out. Wow.
The yellow is out. Josh Kampfer backwards in turn 4. That is the 082 from Kansas State, who was parked in turn 4, pointed the wrong direction. Trying to get this thing sorted out, but that caution could not have fallen at a better time for every car on the lead lap, and could not have been at a worse time. Oh boy, Josh Kampfer just got right into the back of Wesley Shaw, and around the 082 goes. Kind of shocking that the 73 didn't go with him. That was a hard impact there to the back corner panel.
We kind of, we're talking about the green flag pit stops. We thought Connor Zabosian start going down pit road, and I think that was going to open the cycle for a lot of those one-stop strategies. But now, you're pretty much safe on this one-stop strategy. Cade Corbin obviously is going to be not too happy with that yellow flag, but nonetheless, he's going to get his lap back as everyone's going to go down pit road, or at least I hope so on the lead lap. Weird that
here comes. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's weird that the pit lane lights are red right now. I believe everyone can come down pit road as Daniel Nanny lines up and gives everyone down pit road. You can see a couple cars on pit road already from some earlier damages, but nonetheless, this is a crucial part of the race for a lot of these drivers that were trying to stick it out to this point without having to worry about pits or damage repair.
Yeah, this is a huge opportunity for these cars to get some damage repaired on their car. You see Nanny and Campbell in sync into their box, right sides up on both the 30 and the 9, and then right sides down. Put the left sides up, I'm sure. Yep. Looks like the 30 going to have maybe a slightly faster stop here from that lead spot, and he is down and away. Nanny, Campbell, the first 2 off of pit road. Then it's Forbes and Cummings, so the top 4 remains the same exiting pit road as it was going on. Schulenberger, a bit of a long stop here. I think he's trying to repair some of that damage from that incident with Shaw and Ferwetta earlier on. You see Ferwetta was on pit road for a while there as well.
A lot of someone we haven't talked about too much, Edward Sanchez currently, I think he gained a couple of spots now up into 6th, I believe, but yeah, to your point, Alex, with Brandon Schulenberger sitting on pit road and Sean Campbell and Daniel Nanny being out in front, obviously the 7 has a tall order to try and climb up, as he's actually going to go a lap down here, I believe, if he doesn't get out pit lane right now.
Yeah, the pace car is going to make his way past the exit. A couple of cars taking the wave around. You see Schulenberger and them were just getting off pit road. So they should be able to stay on the lead lap here. Cade Corbin will cycle back to the lead lap, although on significantly older tires, 18 laps compared to the rest of the field who had not put on who just put on tires. Josh Kampfer marked with the penalty there for causing a collision. And I tell you, this front group, this is the first time that everyone's kind of been within reaching distance of each other since the opening start to this race, Brad. I got to imagine some folks are going to really try to capitalize here.
Yeah, and then everyone has to get used to those cold tires again, too, so don't push them too much and maybe learn from that first stint and try to save them a little bit, as pace car is still on pit. I thought the lights were off on the pace car. But
yeah, they just extended. They just extended the caution by a lap here because the field, obviously, as you can see, not stacked up yet. So they're gonna run another lap here. Let this thing try to get stuck back together. It'll be Nanny and Campbell in your front row. Forbes and Cummings, Skozen and Sanchez, Bayham and DeLong, Burrell and Onofre. Your top 10. I think very telling to me. is, 4 of the top 5 in points in that top 10 right now. And Schulenberger, even for as long as he spent on pit road repairing that damage, will be restarting in 15th. So not a particularly bad starting place here for the Wingate machine, especially since he was able to spend close to a full extra minute on pit road repairing some of that damage.
And I think that might be the only blessing that, Schulenberger has for Nanny's speed here tonight, is he's put so many people a lap down organically that, Schulenberger, with just having to stay on pit road for so long, only being in 15th for his situation is a blessing in disguise. But right now, the top two of the top 3 in points, and Daniel Nanny, Sean Campbell lead this field around 3 and 4. The pace car will now come down pit road. Green flag up in the air as the cars have to get around turn 4 here to the restart zone, and everyone get back to used to side-by-side racing as they're coming to the green, and it drops right now. And Ball State, Daniel Nanny gets a huge jump. John Ford Jr. right behind him. Oh, no. I didn't say anything.
Yeah, the yellow is back out. Josh Camphor has spun at the back of the field, although this time I think he had some help. With the amount of wave arounds, that field was a little single file in the back. It started snaking off of turn 4, and I think that got a little messy on the restart there. Ultimately, it was the 082 who went around, but let's see if we can figure out what happened here to Camphor. Because it looks like Aaron Brown was also around even before Camphor got there. So this half of the field is single file through all the wave rounds and cars who were off the lead lap. So that part is not, atypical. But let's see, they hit the restart zone here. Looks like something happened with the 16. He might have spun his tires. And he's on 65 lap old tires. He hadn't changed those yet since very early in this race. I wonder if he just spun them here trying to get on the throttle.
On board here with the Eastern Shore machine, you could see, I don't know if that was a little bit of spin tires along with just a reaction of the rest of the field checking up in front of them. Obviously, unfortunately for Josh Camphor, involved in this wreck as well, and that's going to end his night. But when you're further on back in the field here, that domino effect, especially coming out of turn 4 where it's a little bit shaky, can get a lot worse, and that is Exhibit A right there. We see the 16 on pit road yet again, getting some fresh tires, but also damage repair.
Yeah, service being done on Aaron Brown, so nothing crazy changed except for one notable thing here, Brad. That little bit of time to drive down the turn 1, because of how good of a restart the 30 had, John Forbes Jr. was actually scored ahead of Sean Campbell going into turn 1, which means now the 11 will restart on the front row. And Campbell will restart here with Jake Cummings here in the second row, with Skozen and I believe Reese Bayhem now in row number 3. Trying to see if I missed something here. Oh yeah, Edward Sanchez being scored in the 13th position. I wonder if he didn't have a good restart or something. He seemed to lose some track position. Actually, it looks like he's trying to catch back up to the rest of the field here.
It might have brought down pit road. Maybe got some damage repair for the 26. Got some, there's time to do it right now. I don't know how many more cautions you're going to have here, but the Edward Sanchez taking it down pit road at least and getting maybe a little bit of splash and go. We're right on the barrier of the fuel window, so maybe some of these drivers just trying to top off, maybe try to stretch this whole entire last piece of this race, and the more cautions help, and he's going to have that the track position to do so as well with staying out, and you can see he's trying to file back in, and filing back in is just a pain sometimes with iRacing.
So the field more or less set to go. The last couple cars in the line trying to get themselves into position here for the restart. It's the second yellow of the day after a very healthy It's about 68 lap or so green flag run to kick this thing off. Nanny and Forbes Jr. on the front row, Campbell and Cummings in row number 2. They'll make their way off of turn 4 once again, side by side, about 12 rows deep. As the green flag back in the air, we are racing into turn 1. Decent launch for the 30. He'll lead the 11 into 1. Campbell and Cummings side by side for third behind him.
Cummings is going to be able to power through to that third place position, and now Campbell has to settle into fourth. Around further on. Trey Lambrick, a little stack up behind, not a caution yet. Clinton Halterman around.
Clinton Halterman and Trey Lamprecht got collected there off of 2. They're both scored out of the racing line, though. So this thing is going to be marked green because they are off of the racing surface. That's how iRacing determines its yellows. Usually it's pretty accurate, but at a place like Darlington, that range is so wide, sometimes things you would typically see as yellows not to be. And yeah, it looks like contact there between Sanchez and Lamprecht sent the Texas A&M San Antonio machine around. And it just kind of ricocheted further back into Clint Halterman, into Ben Neller. And what's been a tough night for both of them continues to be the case. But we stay green up at the front of this field. Daniel Nanny trying to hold off John Forbes Jr. Easier said than done as the 11 right on the back bumper. They both hit the wall coming off of the corner. And now Forbes is taking a peek to the inside. The first time we've really seen Nanny challenge for the lead here tonight. And at Saddleback College's John Forbes Jr. trying to apply the pressure off of 4.
You can see he's giving it everything he has. I mean, the 11 right now just peeking to the inside, getting into that outside wall, trying to do anything he can to keep the momentum up and keep on the back bumper of the 30. I mean, Daniel Nanny, that's the first time I think I've seen him hit the wall all night. Obviously, with some pressure applied, that definitely is going to unsettle the 30. And you know who's loving this is Jake Cummings, as we actually have a caution.
Caution is out further in the field. Wesley Shaw slow off of turn 2, the 73, heavy right side damage. As he works his way down the Boeing backstretch, looks like Nick Stockner was slow as well. Take a look at this here. The 73, I think, was just in the... Oh, Nick Stockner was already around. Let's see if we can see what happened to the 124. It was Stockner who was sideways here. Going into the corner. Got a piece of the wall pretty good there. Don't know if that was net code or maybe a little bit of contact with Ryan Smith, the Auburn driver who was inside. And then Wesley Shaw, nowhere to go. He put it up against the fence and just not enough room to slide on past the Clemson car.
Ozian slides right on by as well. And I mean, you know, unfortunately for Stockner, he slid right back up into the racing line, and there were cars coming, I guess, that at that point, which caused the caution comparative to the Clint Halterman and that whole calamity that happened down the backstretch. But you can see a lot of cars coming down pit road as well.
Yeah, I think this is a prime time for some folks to come down pit road, put some potentially fresh tires on it, but I think more importantly, top off on fuel. You're definitely good, even if it goes green the whole way from this point. You'd be able to make it to the end of the race. Burrell overshoots his box just a little bit. That's going to cost him a couple very valuable seconds here on pit road. And it sounds like we're hearing from race control, it is being deemed a net code incident between Stockner and Ryan Smith, which we suspected may have been the case because it did look like there was still some room between those two when they got together. So about 7-8 cars on pit road, including Brandon Schulenberger, who's been fighting an uphill battle ever since that first pit stop here, trying to repair some of the damage on that race car. And this field is already pretty trimmed out as far as who's on the lead lap thanks to that long green flag run. Currently only 17 cars scored on the lead lap, going from race leader Daniel Nanny all the way back to Ronan Suarez, the Santa Monica College machine, in 17th. Your last car on the lead lap, only one car scored one lap down right now. That is UNC Charlotte's Clint Halterman, who I believe actually just got... no, he has still scored one lap down. And then a couple of folks, Stockner and Zabosian, scored 2, with several more cars who are still in this race, but a number of laps down at this point. So Darlington doing what it does best, Brad, which is trimming out this field in a hurry because it is just that difficult of a place to race at.
I think if you're, someone who's keeping it consistent, someone, maybe some of these drivers we haven't talked too much on this season, like Austin DeLong, Riley Birkins, really, I mean, those two up in the top 10 having a great day, staying on the lead lap. Nonetheless, obviously, if you're on the lead lap right now, you're going to be guaranteed at least a top half finishing position, and it really looks like just a top half finishing spot because about half of the cars are now dwindled out as you see some more. I think that's Ethan Head from Tennessee trying to catch up to the pack now.
Yeah, we already have about 10 cars officially out of this race and about another 5 who are on the track, but 5 or more laps down. So if you're able to keep this thing kind of clean and green, you'll be in good shape. On this restart, we'll stay on board with John Forbes Jr. here for the restart alongside Daniel Nenny as they make their way off of 4 into the restart zone. They go back on to the loud pedal, racing into turn 1. Forbes might have a little company to the inside, but he's able to hold off the challenge, settles in to P2, and you can see just how tight it is running through 1 and 2 as he gets right to the back bumper. Actually had to lift a little bit to not run into the back of the 30 there.
I think Daniel Nanny might have got a little too tight coming through 1, ended up checking up him and John Forbes Jr. going through 2, and now you can see Forbes not, drifting off away from the 30, keeping up with them for now, but we saw Daniel Nanny able to keep his tires just, surprisingly healthy throughout this entire 70 lap green flag run. So, if you're John Forbes Jr. right now, you're trying to keep up with the 30, but at the same time, try to conserve some tires here, along with, Jake Cummings, Sean Campbell. Sean Campbell was keeping up with the 30 for the most part, staying within a 2-second barrier, but nonetheless, if you're John Forbes Jr., you attacked a lot on that prior restart, and now he's all still up on the back bumper of the 30 as the rest of the field.
Oh, Schulenberger spinning across the start-finish line. The front end of that car completely destroyed. Big points implications here for the Wingate machine. He was on fresh tires trying to make up some ground, and just a heavy impact coming off of turn number 4. Take a look at this. This is not what you want to see for a title aspiration for the 7. Bam! Hard impact to the inside wall. Brings out the yellow. Boy, the front end of that car just completely devastated. I just got to see, did he make contact with Corbin here, or is it just getting so loose off the air coming off the back bumper? Because he was close enough where the arrow may have affected that car coming off of 4, but he also may have just made contact with him. Take one more look at it here.
Good. Oh, just ever so slightly. I think he might have brushed up against the 08 and
just barely.
I was gonna say that, like you said, the air just pushed that front end to the left. You could see he just tried to do anything he could, but once this car decides it wants to go to the inside wall, it's kind of a wrap here in Darlington. It's just going to suck you in and take you right out. And obviously the engine out of the 7, as he can't even get any RPMs back up in that machine.
So Schulenberger towed back to pit road. And that, you hate it for a guy who's been so consistent this year, but that may be a potential ender of a championship hope right there. Only 2 races after today. He won't fall all the way to the bottom of the running order here with the amount of cars that are already out, but I think in this case scenario, if everyone who's still on the racetrack ends up finishing this thing, Schulenberger would drop to 27th, which is simply a day that you can't afford to have in a full season point structure this close to the end when you are already chasing the 9 a little bit here, who's currently running in this 4th spot. It's been a good day, but a pretty quiet day so far for the UNC Greensboro machine. Been in the top 5 all evening long. Was chasing down Daniel Nanny at the start, but just didn't quite have the speed to get up to him, it felt like. Trying to get him on the long run, but Nanny in that clean air just really set sail in the last 20 laps of that long green flag run that we had to start the race. So he's still sitting up there, and then Daniel Nanny, who comes into tonight 3rd in points, currently in that top spot right now, doing everything he needs to do to try to really get himself back and really tie up this championship picture leaving Darlington. So we'll cycle through some of these cars in the top 10. Edwin Onofre comes into tonight 4th in points. He's running a pretty steady 8th at the moment, and that's been the MO of the 199 all year. It's just every race keep churning through pretty solid efforts. He's had a lot of top 10s this year, and he's on pace to do that again here tonight if he's able to hold this 8th place spot.
We got Riley Birkins here again, shouting out the 33. I mean, started 24th up to 9th, up 15 positions right now for.
Yeah, it's been a good drive for the 33.
Yeah, New England College's proud sponsor, right, or proud school right there. You can see Ball State currently in 1st, but also got a 2nd car in Kelton Quick currently sitting in 10th. So nonetheless, Ball State doing what they have done in seasons past, you know, keeping a lot of cars in the field and a lot of fast cars at that.
That it is. So just getting ready for the restart once again. They have to go through 3 and 4, but then we will go back to green flag racing when they take lap 87 here from Darlington. On board with Kelton Quick, you'll get a sense just a little bit of what it's like restarting a little further back in the pack. He's about 5 rows deep, and he's got about another 5-6 rows behind him, so very much in the thick of things right now is the number 2 machine. So they'll come down off the banking. The leaders hit the stripe, and we are racing once again. On board here with the 2, and you'll see how dicey it is getting into turn 1 off the restarts.
Because you thought it was close quarters at a lot of these other tracks. Darlington, you can see everyone's just either up against the wall or right against the car on the inside. You can see he's right behind Austin DeLong. Now he's going to try and use some momentum to get to the outside of the 222 as he's able to make that pass for 8th. And we have a caution again.
And for Weta, Ryan Smith and Logan Smith on the back straightaway. 2 of the Auburn machines and Embry Riddle all sideways across the back straightaway. Take another look at this. I mean, this was, yeah, for Weta and Logan Smith get together, more contact, and then Ryan Smith, I think, just lost it and kind of compounded the issue that was already happening with the 248 and the 34. Zabosian and the 72 goes around as well. Oh, actually, I think Ryan Smith may have had contact there with Madison Ulrich. I think that may have been what have happened there to the 82. We'll take another look at it here. On board with Zabosian.
Looking back here, you can just see that, you know, you're trying to run your line, and then all of a sudden there's this plume of smoke. You have a lot of track to work with, but once you get on this apron, it's a little slippery, and that just spins out the 72 right up into Ryan Smith. And that's going to send the 82 right headlong into the wall. Take another look here.
Coming off of turn 2. Nice move to avoid Suarez, and then as he's trying to get that car back up the racetrack, catches the banking, slides up the track, and that's all she wrote. So, unrelated to this incident, but from our incident prior, just hearing word that Brandon Schulenberger has officially gotten out of the car here tonight. So his day has come to a close as of lap 82. What's been a frustrating one, I'm sure, for the 7. One that just never really got going. And this is a track that he's pretty good at, finished top 5 2 seasons ago when we were here last, and just not going to be able to capitalize on that here today. And it sounds like a racing incident between Ferwetta and Logan Smith, so that is going to be no penalty for those 2. And you can see just from that look, I mean, this field's starting to trim out a little bit. We have a couple of cars who took the pit road, though. Notably Sanchez, Suarez, as well as looks like Clint Halterman making a stop here to try to repair some more damage. So a few takers for pit road. And Brad, after a very long green flag run to start this race, we're starting to run into the situation you can have at Darlington, which is the more time you have to run side by side, the more times issues can arise here at the track Too Tough to Tame.
Yeah, with a lot of people having, you know, trouble coming out of turns 2 and 4. Obviously, if somebody hits the wall real hard, that just creates a stack-up effect for everyone behind. And once you're about 2 cars back from that, you can't tell what's going on. You just see a plume of smoke and people hitting the brakes. You know, I think a lot of drivers wish that, you know, some of these cars were actual tail lights, and you could tell when people are hitting the brakes. So maybe you could, you know a little bit, you know, ahead of time. But nonetheless, you know, when it comes to Darlington, even though there's so much track to go into, you know, unlike Phoenix where you can, you know, hit the apron and keep on going if you're in the truck series, you know, once you hit that apron, you can't really go much of anywhere. You just slide that car back up to the outside wall, as we've seen all of tonight. And, you know, if something happens up there, you pretty much just got to hope and pray.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we are about to go racing once again here. Daniel Nanny, John Forbes Jr., your front row. It is Cummings, Campbell, Bayhem, Skozen, and Ofray Quick, DeLong, and Birkins, your top 10. As we will hit the restart zone once again. Here we go. Good jump for the 30. He will be able to clear going into turn 1. Jake Cummings, not quite. Yeah, it was just taking a peek to the inside of Forbes there. Not able to do anything about it. He'll settle into third. And the 11 launched out of a rocket ship going into turn 2. Boy, he hammered the wall. Had a lot of momentum to carry. I mean, I'm not shocked he hit the wall there. That car was flying through there and had nowhere to take that momentum.
I was going to say, either everyone else is, you know, not having that grade of 1 or 2, or John was just, he's just going to send it into that outside wall. That's just what happened to the Saddleback machine. You know, he's nursing it right now. Obviously keeping it in second position, so it wasn't that crazy of a hit. But it really depends if you hit the right front of the car or if you hit, you know, flush with that right side of the car. Because the toe link or anything on that right side of the car that gets bent or any type of damage will hurt the car. Obviously, we talked about the stability of the car earlier on. But right now, he's trying to just push right now as he's able to get back to Daniel Nanny. Looking all up on the back bumper of the Ball State machine.
Yeah, he is right to the back bumper in the 1, trying to make something happen. Can't say I blame him. Once they're able to settle into a rhythm, it's been hard to catch the 30 today. So the 11 trying to apply as much pressure as they can now while they are all stacked up together here on this restart. Maybe burning up the tires a little bit, but he also might be forcing the 30 to use up his tires just a little bit, applying a little more direct pressure than Campbell was in the early going of this race. And this is still letting Jake Cummings and Sean Campbell kind of hang in the mix here. They're running 3rd and 4th right now, only a couple of car lengths back as they are already getting some noticeable separation from the rest of the top 10. That's Tyler Skozen in 5th, holding off Reese Bayham at the moment for that 5th spot. So we are rocking and rolling. As we'll see if we can cut to the live shot here.
I've got the graphic in the top right there. And looking at the 0108 car of Tyler Skozen, ironically with the 0108 replay logo right there. Nonetheless, you can see, oh, it looks like Andrew Burrell.
Oh, hard hit. Andrew Burrell, a hard hit for the 121 from Clemson. He had been putting together a solid drive, was just outside the top 10. And just hammered the inside wall off a 2. Looks like Cade Corbin hard hit there. Cade Corbin and Andrew Burrell get into it. And it's Andrew Burrell with a very hard hit into the wall. Similar to the impact to what we saw with Schulenberg. That's Cade Corbin in the 08 there, trying to get to the inside and just got to the corner there, Brad. And I mean, that's the toughest place on the racetrack to make contact because those cars are so unsettled trying to come down off the banking.
Yeah, man, oh man. I mean, even though you can't see the result, obviously, that was just a hard hit. The rear tires coming up on that Clemson machine, and you know, I don't think it's an understatement to say that his night is done, but you know, that is the virtue, obviously, of coming out of 2 and 4 here. You kind of have to let the car take itself, as we have everyone coming down pit road that's on the lead lap right now.
Yeah, everyone feeling like it's a good time for it, even though it's been a lot of yellow flag laps. They've put about 30 laps on these tires, so they're going to go do that. They're going to top off on fuel to make it the rest of the way. And we'll probably step aside just after this pit cycle, but we want to see who wins the race off of pit road because not everyone came down pit road. It's a big opportunity here. See if anyone's daring enough to try to take only 2 tires. Still a lot of laps left to consider, but you never know. Looks like the 11 might be considering it. John Forbes Jr. going to win the race off of pit road on the 2-tire stop.
And I mean, you only got 1 spot to take, and it's the hardest car to get around. So I guess if there's any time to try and get around, it's going to be with the pit strategy. So the Saddleback machine going to be able to get in front of the 30, but also it looks like Edward Sanchez, Logan Smith stayed out. So those two are going to be on the front row, but you can see the running order after that pretty much the same. Everyone else taking 4 tires here, as we talked about before. It's hard, on these tires here, but nonetheless, 2 tires is going to be an interesting strategy call. And we'll see if anyone else learns from that, maybe if we have a late race yellow. But like we said before, Edward Sanchez, Logan Smith up here with those older tires, not completely on no man's land, but nonetheless, these drivers that were hoping for a free pass, unfortunately, going to have to settle on back to the back of the field here.
With that, we're going to step aside for a brief commercial break. When we come back, continued coverage of tonight's YumTwo College Cup Series race from Darlington. The final 50 laps in store in just a moment.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
All right, here we are, folks, back. And if you haven't heard already, check out our wonderful friends over at YumTwo. That's YumTwo.com. As the pace car peels off, Logan Smith, Edward Sanchez, Brian Ferwetta all stayed out, which means they're going to lead the field to green here on to lap 99. Into the restart zone they go. Oh, and they're spinning at the front. Huge impact there for Logan Smith. The entire field scatters. Jake Cummings, John Forbes Jr. both caught up in it. We're going to take a look here, see what happened. That was absolutely brutal. I'm not sure if someone got into each other or if someone spun the tires or what. Let's take a look. Logan Smith, the front car on the inside lane, is going to go around here once they hit the restart zone. Oh, he just lost it. Just lost it in front of the field. Forbes, Campbell, and Nanny all caught up in it. Same with Cummings and Sanchez. Basically, every car that we've seen in the top 5 caught up in that incident as Logan Smith spun the tires on the restart. Boy, that has got to be a very... that's one of the worst feelings you can have as a driver. When you have a decent car, you get up to the front and spin the tires on the restart, and just everyone piles in because there's nowhere to go. I've done that once or twice in my career, and boy, is it a humbling feeling.
I think Reese Bayham and Edwin Onofre were the only two without any sort of damage. You can see Logan Smith getting sent around and now just along for the ride. You can just see all the cars just having a little bit of bumper cars going through, I can't even call it the infield, the apron down here through the front stretch.
And this is going to really change the complexion of this race. I mean, Nanny, Campbell, Cummings, Forbes, all the guys we've seen running the top 4 basically all night, all with significant bits of contact in that incident. You see all of them coming down pit road here. There was Forbes, there was Nanny and Campbell making their stops as well. Jake Cummings working his way to the box. I mean, this is going to completely turn this race on its head, I think. The only saving grace for these top 4 guys really at the moment is the fact that because they put so much of the field a lap down earlier in this race, they're not going to have to go too far if they are able to stay on the lead lap here. Because there's only 17 cars on the lead lap. So the worst you can fall is to mid-pack in what started as a 37-lap race. Or sorry, a 37-car race. So they have the ability to work their way forward, and they weren't the only ones caught up in that caution. So when they get off a pit road, they will probably still be just outside the top 10. Kind of crazy, but just the way tonight's gone. And all of a sudden, our top 10 looking drastically different here, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, we had up until about lap 85 of all Daniel Nanny leading these laps, and since then, it's just been... a lot of people going up and a lot of people going down. You can see in the bottom right, a lot of movement for these drivers. Nick Stockner, like we said, started at the tail end, up 25 positions, still making it around. Right now, actually, I think he might be on the lead lap.
Yes, he is.
He got that free pass on this caution, so he is back on the lead lap. And you can see he's been through a couple incidents, but nonetheless, back on the lead lap, and that's all you need sometimes. So the 124 going to make it back up here. But your top 10 right now, Brian Ferretta leading the charge with now Reese Bayham from Auburn to the outside. You can see this very, very low. There's only about 13 or 14 cars here, but running through your top 5, Kelton Quick, Austin DeLong, and Edwin Onofre now sitting in 5th. That 199, I mean, the only car right now in the top 5 in points that didn't get involved in that incident and currently sitting in the top 10. Well, Jake Cummings is 10th, so in the top 9. But nonetheless, that Mean Green machine is going to try and make maybe something happen here as we extended the caution one more lap so you can see everyone get back up to the field. Since Darlington is, it feels like it's a lot bigger and longer than 1 1/3 miles, but obviously if people are trying to beat the pace car, they still have to make it all the way back around the track in 1 lap's time to the back part of the field and file in where they're supposed to. So we'll get that back to green here soon.
And that we will. Brian Ferretta, Reese Bayham both have podiumed here before in the YumTwo College Cup Series. Both of them, though, looking for their first win. Kelton Quick, a one-time winner in this series, winner of Daytona a season ago. Austin DeLong, Edwin Onofre also have podiumed before, but still looking for that first win. So a lot of guys here who we've seen flashes of speed throughout the seasons, or in the case of guys like Edwin Onofre, or, really has been there kind of each race this season, just not quite the race winning pace. Potentially today, going to be able to capitalize on what could be a huge opportunity here. Be very curious to see. But the pace car going to make his way back down pit road here into the corner. It's Embry Riddles, Brian Ferretta, Auburn's Reese Bayham, who are going to lead this field back to green. And the flag is back out underway. We go on to lap 104 as this field goes rocketing into turn 1. And everyone's going to have to sort this out in a hurry, where those faster cars are going to try to work through traffic. The slower ones are going to try to hold on to that track position. As you see Forbes Jr. already on the attack. The saddleback machine to the inside of Perkins for 6th.
And I mean, going into the pit road, obviously getting some fresh tires as well. So those fresh tires are going to try and battle through the field. But right now, Brian Ferretta, a heck of a jump at the start, and he is able to get out to about a half second of a distance to Reese Bayham. You can see those two up top. And right now, the alumni have 4 of the top 5 positions, as not much of this season has been dominated by the alumni. But right now, the fortune is on the alumni's side for the moment. And as you can see, just a single file snake line coming through turn 2 now, as we have John Forbes Jr. looking to the inside of Edwin Onofre.
Yeah, we know that 11's been fast tonight, and it looks like he may have been of those cars who had to come down pit road, may have been in the best shape to try to rally back here. He's already to the inside of the 199 for the 5th spot. Easier said than done, though, as that Mean Green machine, a very tough pass on the racetrack, and Onofre going to hold on to the spot for now as they settle in through that top group. More moves happening deeper in the field, working through traffic, as Daniel Nanny and Sean Campbell both still on pit road. They are now several laps down, and that is going to be a major opportunity now for Jake Cummings and for Edwin Onofre, a huge opportunity to try to close the gap here tonight, and that may have just bailed out Brandon Schulenberger as well, as those guys still on pit road now, both scored 6 laps down. All 3 of the championship heavyweights with major issues tonight at the Lady in Black.
I think we might have jinxed them at the very beginning in the pre-race show, only talking about them. And, who's still standing? It's Edwin Onofre, currently in 5th, battling for 5th right now with John Forbes Jr. and Jake Cummings still in the running in 9th. Those two, still in it at the moment with all the circumstances going on right now. And if we talked about, the Lady in Black, I think this late into the season, we weren't expecting it to be that crazy of a wild card, but Alex, that's what's shaping up to be.
Oh, it certainly is. This has been a fascinating race that just got dunked on its head after we figured out, or at least we thought we had figured out, who was really the ones to keep an eye on. As Forbes going to get around DeLong here for the 4th position. So the 11 on the path here toward the front. It's been an up and down year for Forbes, but right now looking really stout as he tries to reel in the damaged car of Kelton Quick for 3rd. Bayham starting the track in, Brian Ferwetta. And Reese Bayham, you know, he's over 100 points back, but he is in the top 10 in points here tonight. This could be a huge boost to his season if he finds a way around Ferwetta and finds himself in victory lane here tonight for the first time in his CIL career. We've seen him run in the top 5 quite a bit, but still looking for that last little push, as it were. Next time by, it'll be 40 laps to go. Ferwetta, Bayham, and Quick, your top 3, but John Forbes Jr. right there trying to work his way into a podium spot off of 4.
And about clear of Kelton Quick, but Quick was able to keep his nose in there coming out of 4 and stay alongside the 11, but the 11's just going to send it in there with those fresher tires, able to slide on by. And contact between us and DeLong.
He's trying to save it.
It looks like they are able to keep it clean for now. John Forbes Jr. also got into the wall a little bit there coming out of 2 as well, but we are still green, still forward. And you can see Riley Birkins, Ronan Suarez having good nights, trying to make it even better as they're trying to look for that 6th place position from Kelton Quick now, as he's going to try and regain his focus. And, you know, really for Kelton Quick, if he lost 3 more positions here, he's got a little bit of a break further on back. But nonetheless, you can see the battle right now is in 7th, actually, between Ronan Suarez, Riley Birkins side by side. Jake Cummings now trying to push on through and now actually able to get to 8th.
Yeah, Jake Cummings trying to rally that battered Ford Mustang back toward the front, trying to capitalize on what could be a good points day given the misfortune of some of the other championship hopefuls. However, that car definitely seems to be a little down on power at the moment. He'll clear Suarez for the 8th position. Now they're going to try to reel in Birkins, who had just pushed past the 31 a moment ago. And don't look now, but John Forbes Jr. is on the scene for 2nd. He's going to try to take a peek here past Reese Bayham in 3 and 4. He's on a couple lap fresher tires. He's run about 12 laps on these compared to Bayham's 16. But that seems to be all the difference in the world right now as Forbes is putting on the pressure, launches it into turn 1, and he'll move into the 2nd spot and clip the wall a little bit there on 1 and 2. This is a very valiant and, dare I say, almost reckless charge right now from the 11, Brad. We've seen him hit the wall a couple of times here, but he is a rocket ship out there.
I think, you know, since that first caution, we haven't seen anyone that's as, you know, aggressive and also as fast as John Forbes Jr. He's been very, very valiant in his dives and very valiant in trying to, you know, stay up on the back bumper of Daniel Nanny when he was in front of him. But right now, no one give him any sort of contest as he's battled through the field. Now he's got 1 car left, and that is the Embry-Riddle machine of Brian Ferwetta, who's pulled away from the rest of the field if your name is not John Forbes Jr., as he's quickly gaining on the 248 right now.
Yeah, Ferwetta is on 12 lap older tires than Forbes is at the moment, and that may be all she wrote as far as Ferwetta trying to hold on to that spot. We saw how quickly the Saddleback College car could capitalize on Reese Bayham on 4 lap older tires, as behind them, Jake Cummings, Riley Birkins leaning on each other in 1 and 2. They're just sorting that out now. Cummings now up to 7th. Boy, that was getting physical through that section of the racetrack, and somehow, despite the day that he has had, Clinton Halterman's back in the top 10.
I mean, you could say that is pretty crazy. I mean, Clint has been through, you know, the worst of it seems like, and, you know, that's been a lot of his season too, where he's just had unfortunate things happen, and right now he's battling through it, got the adversity going, and right now sitting in 9th, eyeing up Riley Birkins for 8th, and you can see this field has strung out about a half second to a second from each other pretty much for every position right now. The only person I think that might be in a battle anytime soon is John Forbes Jr. as he is still tracking down Brian Ferwetta within 0.2 of a second now. Every lap, like you said, Alex, he has those fresher tires and organically just getting that time back on the Embry-Riddle machine. But, you know, it's one thing to catch a driver. It's another thing to pass him, especially here at Darlington.
Yeah, especially if you're going for the race lead, because they're not just going to hand it over, I'd have to imagine. Ferwetta off of 4 is going to see the green here for lap 119. Just over 30 laps to go as he tries to hold off John Forbes Jr. A little further back here, that is Cade Corbin running now in the 13th position. But, yeah, there's Skozen battling with the 100. Just kind of jumping through the field, showcasing a couple of the battles here. But up front, John Forbes Jr. is in the battle here with Ferwetta. He got to the back bumper in 3, lost it just a little bit, and the yellow's out. Oh, this is a huge yellow at this point in the race. And admittedly, I'm not sure who it's for.
Me neither.
Maybe Ryan Smith? Not entirely sure. Might
Also,
be.
Daniel Nanny is out of the car as well.
Yeah, Nanny is out of the car. He's officially going to be scored a DNF here tonight. Campbell still technically in the race car, but still getting damage repaired on that machine. Looking to see where this caution was. Thinking it could have been Zach Tallman, but not quite. Let me see here in the old... Oh, well, yeah, about to say I was going to check session events, but that seems to be a complete waste of my time because, yeah. Well, here comes the field down pit road for what could be the final time. A huge sigh of relief, I'm sure, for Brian Ferretta, who was on significantly older tires, was in jeopardy of getting passed there for the lead by John Forbes Jr., and now they're going to have an opportunity to duke it out on pit road. Here they go down to their boxes. The field kind of scattered in where their pit stalls are. Looks like it was a good stop here on entrance for the 11. He might have a shot to win the race off.
He's slightly faster than the Embry-Riddle machine, but right now, Edwin Onofre, it looks like with the two-tire call, he's going to come out first, and it looks like the 11 is going to be able to power on through past Brian Ferretta, but right now, Edwin Onofre taking the lead here of the, well, provisional lead, as I think Cade Corbin stayed out. So, nonetheless, Edwin Onofre taking that two-tire call and hoping for the best on the right sides. But the big winner, along with that, John Forbes Jr., able to get past Brian Ferretta and maybe try to battle it out with Edwin Onofre, who's right now sitting in a pretty good points position, no matter really what happens here tonight. He's currently 15 cars on the lead lap, so right now, staying on the lead lap guarantees you a top 15.
Yeah, we apologize, folks. We were not able to identify which car brought out the yellow. There was no indicator from our side, and ATVO, which is our live timing, typically tracks session events, although there seems to be an issue with ATVO at the moment tonight, where none of these session events are getting logged, so... Potentially it was Nick Stockner in the 124. May have a brief moment to see if we can track that down. If not, we'll maybe wait for the next yellow here. Does look like he has some front end damage.
And he was battling through war, I think, through a lot of this race. So another unfortunate set of events is we're going to still try and find out what happened there. I think maybe next, if there's another caution, we might highlight it. But, nonetheless, this front row shaping up to be interesting as we have Cade Corbin and Edwin Onofre. Oh, here's actually the battle real quick here. Looking back at the replay, I think. Him and Ryan Smith.
Yeah, we thought it may have been the 82 initially. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what brought out the yellow there. But the green flag has just dropped once again. Cade Corbin on the old tire is going to lead this field to green. As we take a look here back at the live shot. Corbin trying to hold on, but he's on 20-lap older tires. John Forbes Jr. got right around Edwin Onofre. And here goes the 11 to the inside. He's got Edwin Onofre right in his tire tracks as they try to get clear of Cade Corbin on the older tires. Looks like Forbes will. Onofre not able to do it on the two-tire call. And that is going to open up a gap for John Forbes Jr. to start putting some distance on the field.
Yeah, I think Edwin only had one opportunity there to really get around the 08 and maybe stay with the 11, but he wasn't able to get the pass done in 3 and 4. Now he is and able to get into that second place position. And now Brian Ferretta and the rest of the field might try to figure out how to get around the 08 on those older tires. Austin DeLong peeking to the inside of the Embry-Riddle machine, but staying behind in the Penn College of Technology machine there. Actually coming out of 4 now. He's doing a great job here tonight, staying consistently in about that 5th place position in this final third of the race. John Forbes Jr. actually letting the fastest lap of the race go right there for the 11. So he's he's kept up that speed, and he's definitely letting it loose right now. Though you see Cade Corbin gets into the outside wall out of 2.
And the biggest mistake I think you could make at this point in the race with 25 to go next time by is to really burn up your stuff trying to make a move that may not work right this second. As you see Ferwetta going to get around here, Corbin into turn 1. DeLong going to try to follow him through. Because this is going to be a long enough run where you can potentially burn up your stuff and put yourself in a bad spot. As DeLong able to make that pass, more contact deeper back in the field. As Cade Corbin just slipping through the field right now. Looks like Kelton Quick hit the wall there in 3. This is everyone just holding on for dear life with 25 laps to go.
Yeah, and I think Riley Birkins right now was trying to use Cade as a pick and roll situation there. But right now, doesn't work out for the 33 as the 334 is able to stay in that 6th place position. Tyler Skozen right behind them, able to get into that 8th place around Kelton Quick. Some of the people brushing the wall there coming out of 2. And now it looks like Logan Smith trying to take on the Ball State machine, maybe brushing some elbows there, putting the 2 a little bit further up than he would have liked. Jake Cummins coming on through as well now into the top 10.
Yeah, Kelton Quick having a really tough time keeping the handle on that race car right now. I think everyone knows it's a little down on speed from that damage and is really trying to pounce on that fact. As Corbin now maybe running out of space there with Bayham. Bayham takes the spot. He's up the 5th. More contact with the wall. Everyone shimmying out of the way. As Birkins now up against the fence. Skozen takes that spot. Oh, and Sanchez and Halterman clip the wall through 3 and 4. Oh, and Sanchez is around. The yellow is out.
Oh, hard hit on the right side. Ben Neller into the left side of Clint Halterman. We're going to take a look back at what just happened there. You can see it all started with Skozen getting into the wall coming out of 2 and just 3 wide. A little bit of netcode, I think, there between Clint Halterman and Sanchez. And, I mean, Jake Cummings was, right on the bottom side there. Obviously, 3 wide at Darlington most of the time does not lead to anything good. As the lady in black will take another victim, and Edward Sanchez and Clint Halterman, both of them, battling through damages throughout the back half of here tonight, and just some more to battle with. As looking back up in the field, John Forbes Jr. I don't know if there's anyone that can really contest with them right now. Brian Ferwetta might be able to get there, and Edwin Onofre, we said, has had the speed, Alex, but nonetheless, that 11 seems like he's been on rails at the second half of this race.
Yeah, that car has really come alive in the back half of this race. I do think the biggest thing, though, is that this is a huge thing for Ferwetta. The big way that Forbes jumped out ahead of him initially was getting through Cade Corbin in turn 1 or going through there in the first lap when Ferwetta was not able to do that for several laps. With that now out of the way, and he'll be restarting directly behind the 11, this could be a big chance for the 248 to try to capitalize, get past Onofre on the initial lap here so he doesn't lose too much ground to the 11. And then they're on equal tires. Both of them took 4 the last stop. It could be anyone's race at that point, but I think this was a huge break for Brian Ferwetta and for Austin DeLong as well, who we have not talked about a ton tonight in this top 5, but as the field continues to thin out here, he continues to rise to the top here in that 222.
Kind of the same way as John Forbes Jr. has, became the fastest car. Austin DeLong has became a top 5 commoner here in Darlington. And, these 5 cars at the beginning of this race, I don't know if we really talked about them at all. That's how much this race has been flipped on its head since really this, the first 2/3 after that initial restart / caution crash that happened around the lap 100 mark. So, these drivers up here, if they were able to stay unscathed like Edwin Onofre and Reese Bayhem were through that crash, that granted them a top 5 position. But John Forbes Jr. is able, right now to just push on through and has been very fast. Alex, when you're looking at these 20 laps to go, what are you expecting here for the end of the race without commentator curse happening?
Well, not the commentator's curse, but I do think it is worth highlighting that there's only 2 cars on the lead lap who have a 0 incident count at the moment, and that is Edwin Onofre in 2nd and Riley Birkins in 7th, who's also put up a 0 incident count at this point. I'm sure I've just cursed both of them to a miserable fate here in the last 20 laps of this race, but I do think this race ultimately will come down to some cars you may not expect. That feels to be the tone of tonight's race, and We'll see how it all shapes up here because it's been a fun one tonight from Darlington Raceway. 19 laps to go when they take the green. It's John Forbes Jr. to the inside, Edwin Onofre to the outside. Into the restart zone they go, back onto the throttle, and racing into turn one. A great launch for Ferretta, puts him directly past Onofre, and the two cars who are on 4 tires will start themselves 1 and 2 here in 1 and 2.
And now we got to see if Ferretta is able to keep up. Which
Whoa!
Clint Halterman into the outside wall. I thought he was backwards for a second there, but no, he was just piloting onto that outside wall. The 100 just getting a worse night. Zach Tallman is sideways coming up into 3 and 4, and that's a caution.
Tallman collects Zabosian here through 3 and 4. They yellow back out the 71 and the 72 sideways. Zach Tallman, we have not talked about a ton here tonight, gets caught up in that one, although I think there was initial contact there with him and Kelton Quick. Take a look at this as we go into 3 and 4. The 71 and the 2, both with some damage already tonight. Big elevator move from Quick, and just got into the back of him before they even got to corner entry.
And obviously, they're not entering the corner anywhere where they'd like to be. They're very far down the track. But, I think Tallman checked up because of that and maybe thought he was going to go a little bit further into the corner. Nonetheless, both of them get some minor damage and restacks the field as, now we got an interesting situation. And Ferretta now starting to the outside of John Forbes Jr.
Yeah, this will be interesting on the front row. I almost wonder if Ferretta would have preferred to have been behind the 11, get a good launch like he did. It's a lot harder to time it on the outside. If you can hang to the outside, you might give yourself a decent chance in 1 and 2, but that is easier said than done with the advantage that the advantage that the leader has on restarts. So I'll give you a quick rundown here of your top 10 because, boy, has it shuffled a lot here over the past 30 laps. John Forbes Jr., currently your leader here for Saddleback College. Brian Ferretta scored second, just ahead of Edwin Onofre in that 3rd spot right now for North Texas. Reese Bayham for Auburn scored in the 4th spot right now. Austin DeLong from the Penn College of Technology in the 5th spot. Tyler Skozin of UNOH in 6th. New England College's Riley Birkins in 7th. Logan Smith has rebounded here to 8th for Auburn. Ronan Suarez for Santa Monica College running in the 9th position right now. And Cade Corbin, who has put fresh tires on that race car, is now scored in the 10th spot. Cummings, Halterman, Quick, Sanchez, the remaining cars on the lead lap. It has been an absolutely fascinating one, to say the least here. So only 14 cars on the lead lap, only about 20, I would say, still on the racetrack. And, this is going to put the lights out on the pace car, so we'll be going racing next time by. And, Brad, this has just been one of those nights where kind of out of nowhere it's turned into who's going to survive at the end of it.
Yeah, the first third, it was, good green flag running. We were considering green flag pit stops, and obviously the second, I feel like each third has had a different storyline. This last one is just, who can survive, who's not going to be the victim that, Darlington takes for its next victim. But nonetheless, right now, John Forbes Jr., Brian Ferretta, loving it as they are the front 2 of the field. And like you said, Alex, Edwin Onofre, Reese Bayham, and Austin DeLong rounding out your top 5 here. These front 3 rows, I would say, I feel like they've consistently been at least fast at some point tonight. But nonetheless, John Forbes Jr., we're going to see if he's going to be able to get the jump on Brian Ferretta like he has these past couple of restarts. But Edwin Onofre on that 2-tire call right behind the 11. We'll see what happens here as the pace car takes a stroll down pit road. The field comes through turn 4, going into the restart zone. Green flag in hand by Barney, and he's going to let the green flag drop. And John Forbes Jr. gets another heck of a start, but Brian Ferretta is right there going into 1.
Yeah, pretty decent start right to the back bumper as they go single file with the first couple spots. Bayham trying to work to the outside of Onofre, couldn't quite get there. He'll settle in. The 4th is Logan Smith hard into the wall. Cade Corbin's and Jake Cummings hard into the inside wall. Halterman's around. Sanchez is around. Yellow is out once again. And just about every car who was still on the lead lap, not running in the top 10, has been collected in that one. And we'll see how that started. I think it started right around the 10th spot here with Cade Corbin, Jake Cummings, and Ronan Suarez. You see Corbin hit the wall there a little bit through 1 and 2 as Logan Smith got sideways. Everyone ducked to avoid and just ran out of room.
You know, Alex, we did talk about a little bit of a commentator's curse before, and I think Riley Perkins might have got a little bit of contact there with Logan Smith and maybe got a 2X because of that. I don't know, but we might have Edwin Onofre being the only one left with the 0X.
Well, only one left on the lead lap. Technically speaking, very underrated. Madison Ulrich also at a 0X. Is scored 3 laps down, though. So she is a couple spots off, or a couple laps off at the moment. But also running a 0X, but now a black and orange meatball flag for repairs needed for Clinton Halterman. He's bringing that car back behind the wall to get some more damage repaired on it. Onofre coming down pit road here. Same with Sanchez, same with Logan Smith. 199 overshot the box just a hair. Trying to put fresh tires on this thing, and I'll tell you what, I don't hate this call. Might be just long enough to really make a run here with the lead group all on 17-lap old tires.
I mean, when you got such a small lead lap group, yeah, I mean, it could be worse for an Onofre, but with only 10 laps and we're at Darlington, the passing is going to be hard to come by. So, you know, the Mean Green Machine has been fast. We'll see if he's furious as well in these final 10 laps. But, Alex, you know, right now it's snowing at my house. And nonetheless, I was going to ask you, you know, we're getting into the cooler season and we're getting to the end of this race as well. And I just wanted to see, you know, we're coming to the cooler seasons. I had soup for dinner. Is there any type of have we asked this? What's your favorite type of soup? I feel like
I don't know if we've done soup. Maybe we have. I tell you what, though, I am a big soup guy. You know, it makes it tough being in Florida because I would have soup a lot if I could. But it's never truly soup season in Florida because it's never all that cold. It was a little cold today, though. It was in the 50s, which by Florida standards is pretty freezing. That's actually a iguana warning for anyone who's not, or lizard warning, I guess. If anyone's not familiar, you know, haven't been in Florida for all that long, if it gets cold enough here and kind of out of nowhere, because it was 90 this weekend, but it dropped to the 50s today, they call it a lizard warning because, you know, lizards, cold-blooded creatures, need to sit out in the sun to regulate their body temperature. It gets so cold that they actually, like, kind of freeze up and just start falling out of trees. So they tell you to really be careful because you might just have a lizard fall on you when you're walking down the street. But yeah, as far as actual soup is concerned, sorry, that was way off topic. Big fan of, love me a good Italian wedding soup. Big Italian wedding soup guy. The lights are off on the pace car. You can see it's slim pickings up here trying to put this thing together. We've got about, dare I say, 15 cars just left on the racetrack at this point. John Forbes Jr., Brian Ferwetta on the front row. Coming to the line, there'll be 11 laps to go, this time by... Here we go, into the restart zone, back onto the throttle once again. Good start there for Forbes. Ferwetta files in second. Everyone single file through the top 5 in the turns 1 and 2.
Yet again, Ferwetta's right on the back bumper of the 11.
Oh, no. It's Onofre and Birkins. The broadcaster curse is real. I've just doomed the 33 and the 199. Oh, no. Take another look at this. Edwin Onofre, Riley Birkins get tangled up here in 1 and 2. Take a look at this here. Going into turn 1, Kelton Quick looks to the inside of Birkins. The 33 either clipped the wall or just lost it, not entirely sure. And spun up in front of Onofre, who was on those fresh tires trying to capitalize. Looks like he'll have some front end damage now. Not sure how drastically that's going to affect the race car. We are back under yellow for, I'm not entirely sure of the count. I want to say it's about the 11th time here tonight.
You know, this is going to set up a very short, it's not going to be an organic green-white checkered by sorts, but when we go green here, I believe there should be about 6 to go, as long as we're staying single file for this lap. But nonetheless, you know, Alex, coming to 6 to go. If Edwin Onofre back up to 7th now after that whole thing. He got fresher tires, but considering all of these drivers' circumstances right now, do you think anyone has it for really anyone outside of Brian Froetta or John Forbes Jr.?
It depends on if they actually get going here. We haven't really seen more than a lap of racing since these two have taken the front. I don't really know who's got what left under the hood at this point, just because it's been so restart heavy. If it stays this restart heavy, my money falls to the 11. He has the advantage restarting as the leader. We've seen him put together some really strong pace here tonight, and has just continued to kind of fight and keep himself in position. So my money would have to be on the 11 here if this were to continue. But, if they get this thing sorted out, which is entirely possible because they're just running out of cars to wreck at this point in this race, we may find ourselves in a situation where we get a few laps in at the tail end here. And then at that point, it's just who's got something left in the tank. Because the thing that catches my eye here, the top 5 cars, Forbes, Froetta, Bayham, DeLong, and Skozen, are all on 22-lap-old tires. Jake Cummings, scored in 6th, who's had an absolute war of a night, is on 10-lap fresher tires. He's only put 13 on his. And then Edwin Onofre in the 199, who just got damaged in that most recent caution, is only on 5-lap-old tires. So it's really anybody's guess how this is going to sort out here if they go green. And you can see this whole field, this is the entire field that's left on the racetrack here. Back to Madison Ulrich there and Edward Sanchez. Only about 14 cars who are still on the racetrack.
Now, yet again, Saddleback and Embry Riddle again on the front row. We'll see if we can make it through turn 2 this time, as John Forbes Jr. leading the field with Brian Froetta to his outside, and it is Reese Bayham, Austin DeLong, Tyler Skozen, Jake Cummings, Edwin Onofre, Riley Perkins, Ronan Suarez, Edward Sanchez, Cade Corbin, your lead lap cars, as we come to the green flag, going to the restart zone. John Forbes Jr. gets another heck of a jump here, as we are green yet again here in Darlington.
Oh boy, barely cleared there for Forbes over for Froetta. They'll settle in 1-2. Bayham in the 3rd. Here we go through 1 and 2 once again. Are they going to be able to sort this thing out? Maybe not, as Jake Cummings sideways. But we stay green because he has that car pointed in the right direction. So we continue to forge on here. Forbes hits the wall just a little bit through 4. Here comes Brian Froetta down turn 4. Onto the front straightaway, right in the tire tracks. Does he make a move in the 1? Not quite. He stays in line for now. 5 laps to go. Or correction, maybe 6 laps to go here. 6 laps to go from Darlington. Brian Froetta's right there. He's right on the back bumper going into 3.
And we talked about before, it is so hard to pass here. But, both of these cars have relatively fresh tires. So if Brian Froetta wants to do a last-ditch effort here coming into the closing laps, I think he can do it. It's just when does he pull off that move and how much, how fast can he do it? Because John Forbes Jr., you saw there, is just burning rubber. He is setting some fast times right now. But the 248 staying right to the back bumper. But with every lap, I feel like right now they're just slowly getting a bigger and bigger gap between them. As you see now, it's about 0.3 or about 4 or 5 car lengths between the two.
Yeah, John Forbes Jr. just hit the fastest lap of the race last time by. Here they go again to the stripe. Another very fast time for the 11. Last time it was a 28.617. And this time it's about the same. It was 28.843. So he's about a 10th quicker right now than the 248. Coming to the line, and this time around it'll be 3 laps to go. And John Forbes Jr. starting to open up that gap just a little bit. He may be in the prime position here to pick up his first win of the season if he's able to hold on for about another 4.5 miles.
We talked about it this back half. He's been on rails, and it seems like right now Brian Froetta, his only competition right now, is now sitting to almost 0.7 of a second within 4 laps. Froetta, he is fast, but right now Forbes, I think, has been setting fast lap time after fast lap time, and track or race laps after race laps. It's just, setting records for the race, trying to get some more points for the 11. But nonetheless, like you said, Alex, that first win of the season is going to be way more important.
Yeah, here they go down the back straightaway for the penultimate time. The gap now opened up to 9/10 of a second. John Forbes Jr. has been the dominant car in the back half of tonight's race. And after a wild restart earlier on, where we saw several of the contenders get taken out, it all comes down to this. The white flag, presented by the Napa Longland Corporation for your car, truck, and automotive needs. Visit Napa, get the Napa know-how. And here we go for one more time around into 3 and 4. It's been an absolutely insane race, but in the end, it is going to be John Forbes Jr., the Saddleback College Machine, victorious for the first time in the CIL YumTwo College Cup Series. Brian Ferwetta, Reese Bayham, your podium finishers, but it is going to be Saddleback's John Forbes Jr., the first win of the season, first win of his YumTwo College Cup Series career. Congratulations to the 11. Boy, he had the speed when it counted, and he was able to keep that car clean when it mattered the most.
It would have been so interesting to see how Sean Campbell and Daniel Nanny would have been eyeing up the 11. I really don't know if he was so fast that final half that I don't know if those two would have had anything for it, but nonetheless, congratulations to the Saddleback College Machine as he's going to burn it down here in Darlington, South Carolina. And also, Embry Riddle finishing in second place. We also got Reese Bayham in third, a podium for Auburn as well. So a good collection of cars on the podium here tonight.
Ultimately, it's only 11 cars who finish on the lead lap. And of the top 5 in points, the only cars to finish the race tonight was 4th and 5th in the points. Edwin Onofre scoring 9th, Jake Cummings scoring 8th. So a wild shuffle, I'm sure, in store at the top of the standings. Certainly going to anchor a few things closer together going into the last 2 races of the season. As John Forbes Jr. burning it down here on the front straightaway. Well-deserved win for the 11. Even through all the chaos, he was so fast here tonight. And a very, very deserving winner of this race. Started 5th, moves his way up to 1st, and led a boatload of laps in the process. So with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break one last time. When we come back, tonight's final results, including interviews with your podium finishers, will be back in just a moment.
When you're behind the wheel, you need precision, timing, and teamwork. Racing isn't a solo sport. You need your pit crew and your driver. Neither is cooking. That's why we built YumTwo. YumTwo is your cooking co-driver that lets you cook and find recipes that you'll both like with whatever preferences you have. No matter how hard or how easy it is to find recipes, we'll always have a recipe for you to pick. We're sponsoring the College Cup Series this season, but off the track, we want to sponsor your dinner. Get on the grid before launch and join the waitlist now at YumTwo.com.
America. From trucks and trains to tractors and excavators, and the need for skilled technicians is exploding.
The opportunities in the diesel world are endless. Here is everything that you'll ever need to succeed.
At the University of Northwestern Ohio, you'll train on real engines, real rigs, and real industry tools, preparing you for careers in transportation, construction, agriculture, and beyond. Apply now at unoh.edu. Where you can learn by doing, the University of Northwestern Ohio puts the wrench in your hand and your future in motion.
I would recommend UNOH to anybody who wants to excel in this industry.
With industry connections, cutting-edge equipment, and programs in automotive, diesel, high performance, robotics, and more, this is education that works.
You will come to this school and you will leave 10 times what you were when you came here.
Apply now at unoh.edu.
We are back, folks. Final results up on your screen. We'll be talking to our winner and podium finishers in just a minute. John Forbes Jr. picks up the win here, his first this season over Brian Ferwetta and Reese Bayham. Austin DeLong from the Penn College of Technology finishes 4th. Tyler Scozen for UNOH with a top 5 finish. Santa Monica College's Ronan Suarez will be 6th. Edward Sanchez for Baruch will be 7th. Jake Cummings and Edwin Onofre from Converse and North Texas, respectively, 8th and 9th, with Cade Corbin from Alabama Huntsville rounding out your top 10.
And then the second set here, you can see Riley Perkins ends up being the last car on the lead lap from New England College. And starting through your second set here, it's Madison Ulrich, Logan Smith, Connor Zabosian, Ethan Head, Kelton Quick, Roger Primo, Clint Halterman, Zach Tallman, and rounding out your top 20, Nick Stockner.
Looking back here to the 21st position, Ben Neller from Ball State, Ryan Smith, Daniel Nanny, Sean Campbell, 23rd, 24th, both taken out in the same incident on that restart. Andrew Burrell finishes 25th. Brandon Schulenberger, the other of the top 3 in points here tonight, finishes 26th. Wesley Shaw, Trey Lamprecht, Aaron Brown, and Josh Camphor will round out your top 30.
And rounding out your field here tonight, Robbie Hotchkiss, Drew Williams, Lee Winters, Brendan Lyman finishes in 34th, Matthew Norberg 35th, Doug Newbigging 36th, and Jack Wilson 37th.
With that, we're going to go down the victory lane and talk with our race winner here tonight, driver of the 11, John Forbes Jr. Hey there, John. This is Alex and Brad up in the CIL booth. You got a copy?
Hey, I got you guys.
Oh, I'll tell you what, that car, despite all the chaos that was happening around it on the racetrack here tonight, looked wicked fast, especially in the back half of that race once you got a little bit of track position. What was it like running out there? I would say, I guess it's kind of a tale of 2 races, but I'd love to know what your thoughts were between that long green flag run to start things off versus the very restart-heavy back half.
Yeah, definitely a tale of 2 races. I was ecstatic to get that green flag run at the night to start the night. I mean, from there, when that caution came out, I was like, okay, cool. I've had a great night. We got a green flag run in. Whatever happens the rest of this race, I'm okay with. And I mean, it was just a roller coaster the rest of the night. Just caution after caution, and really just trying to pick and choose when you wanted to pit, put some tires on. And me, Daniel, basically the whole field had a good idea to come down at, I think it was a little bit past halfway, about 100 laps, 120 laps into the race. And I had no idea how many guys were going to stay out. I really didn't think anywhere. So I put 2 tires on it, just hoping to get an advantage, jump in front of Daniel and see what I could do with the clean air. But then I put myself in 4th place, and I mean, we saw it happen on that restart. Really sucked for a bunch of the front runners. I guess I was the only lucky one to get out of that. And I didn't think I was very lucky. I got hit a few times. I'm like, oh, toes definitely knocked out of it or something. Came out pit road, and it was like 20 seconds. So I was like, cool, now we got to march up back through the field. And lucky enough that there were a lot of guys a lap down, so I didn't put tires on for that run. I was just like, we're going to feel it out, see how it goes, and maybe we get another caution, put some tires on it. But yeah, restarted 8th with about 30 laps to go, and basically just marched through the field. Got a caution with about 20 to go and put the tires on it. And from there, yeah, it was just kind of survival and timing the restarts. I was trying to do some different things. Some guys were kind of bumping on the outside lane to kind of shoot that lane forward. So I was doing the best I could to kind of mix it up so they couldn't predict me as the best I could, and it worked out at the end of the night.
It certainly did. You did just enough there, especially on those restarts. That was going to be my next question is, when you are the lead car on the restarts so regularly, especially going up against the same like 1 or 2 cars back to back to back to back, how do you keep mixing up the timing to give yourself the advantage? Because I feel like after a while, you just kind of run out of options, and at some point, they're just going to guess right.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like MLB. You're just guessing what kind of pitch is going to come down to you when you're hitting, as far as if you're the second car. So you definitely want to keep them on your toes. You want to keep giving out the same pitches. So I tried mixing it up. There's a couple of tools you kind of have as the lead car. I mean, obviously you can go anywhere in the box, which really helps. I mean, that's kind of your main ticket right there on what you're going to be doing. So you can go late, you can go early, you can go middle. But there were a few times that I saw that they were pushing into the zone. So my play on that would just be to wait on them, really, because I'd see them pushing. I'm like, okay, they're going to get a good launch if I launch like right at the line. So in that scenario, I was waiting a little bit till they got off of me when they were about to clear, and they were like, oh no, now I got to let off. And that's when I'd go. So I would get the jump in a scenario like that. But a couple other things I was doing was just kind of, I mean, you have a few miles an hour to play with going to the box. So sometimes you will roll it slow, sometimes you'll roll it fast. But another thing that can happen when you roll slow is the back of the field gets a little bit more bunched up. So I tried that a few times, and obviously it did bring out caution. So we were doing everything we could there at the end of the race to hold on to that one.
Well, you did just enough to make it happen. Then, when you finally got a little bit of green flag run, and then right at the end, able to pull away about a 1-second win. First ever win here for you in this series, the YumTwo College Cup Series. First win for Saddleback College in this series in the 130-some race history of this series. So congratulations on that. And John, ultimately, a big win for you here tonight at an iconic venue. Is there anyone you'd like to shout out here on the win?
Yeah, Scott, I think all the friends and family watching. This league's kind of been on and off for me. When I get free time, I'll hop in, and it's always a good crowd. I love trying to help some of the lower I ratings and stuff, and that's just one of the cool things about this league. There's just I ratings that are all over the board, so it gets chaotic at times, and it's made it hard to finish some races for me this season. But I'm super glad to finally get one done and keep the momentum going the rest of the season.
Well, that you did. John, congrats on the win. And looking forward to hopefully catching you next week at Auto Club.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
That is your race winner here tonight, driver the number 11, John Forbes Jr., picking up the win. And Brad is now joined on pit road by our runner-up finisher, Brian Ferwetta.
I'm down here on pit road with our second place finisher, Brian Ferwetta. Brian, you got a copy?
Hey, how's it going, guys? How you doing tonight?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Well, I feel like, you were one of the only cars to come out of Darlington without completely exploding your car. Take us through the beginning of this race for you and how your strategy changed from the green flag racing to pretty much everything after the first third of this race.
Well, so before this race started, my family was asking me, they're like, what's your goal for today? And I was like, finish the race, because we have had terrible luck with just getting to the end of these races without being some bowling pin. So the goal was just to finish the race, and I think it was like lap 50 or something. It was me, Sanchez, Schulenberger, and I think it was a 79. All had that little debacle coming out of I think it was 2 maybe, and that gave me a good chunk of wheel damage, and the car was junk. And I was like, thought the race was over. So at that point, we were just okay, we're surviving, and it just went green after that, which never happens for us. But hey, we hung in there, and the yellows came out, and they ended up working out. We got the car fixed, and it was back to the front. And because of all that, we had limited tire options of what we could do. So we just threw some on, raced to the front, and then went in with all the leaders on that last bit. And John just beat me out of the pits, and I just could not get back around him after that. He was fast. He was a rocket ship.
I was going to say, for the most part, in those final cautions, you were starting on that outside line, and it seemed like, when the only time anyone could really get to John was if on those restarts, just get to the back bumper and maybe apply some pressure. Was that your strategy at the final 10 laps or so on that final restart, or did you have any sort of plan, or was it just, try to race them cleanly and finish the race?
Well, after watching what happened to Daniel at Martinsville and getting black flag, I was very hesitant on trying to guess perfectly. So my big goal was just trying to stay ahead of the third place car and be able to tuck in line there and then at least have a shot. And I thought maybe that first or second lap we'd be able to hang with him a lot better. And then the dude starts setting the fastest laps of the race at the end. So it's like, what are you supposed to do? So we just kind of hung in, and I think we had speed for him, but he was just on a different level at the end there. And yeah.
And third top 5 of the season, second time up here in the booth on the podium as well. Going into Auto Club in Kansas, first off, are you planning to race in any of those races? And secondly, are you looking forward to either of those two coming up?
Yeah, we're definitely looking to finish out the season strong. If we can keep the nose clean on this car, I think we have a good chance of competing for top 5s. I think we do have a lot of speed here. I know some of the big names got taken out on that restart, but I feel like we can race with them. This season's just about keeping it clean, and maybe that's what I'm going to learn this year for a rookie year, is how to keep the car clean to the end of the race, because that seems to be the key factor in our success.
Yeah, I think definitely this season it's been attrition, and consistency at the end is probably your best friend. So before we let you go, Brian, is there anyone you'd like to shout out here?
Absolutely. First off, I'd like to shout out my wife. She's amazing. She lets me do this, and huge supporter. Probably my number 1 fan. My parents are watching. My sister's watching. I have some really great friends that tune in every week and watch you guys and watch us do circles around these tracks, and they're huge supporters for us. So I'd like to thank all of them. My grandmother tunes in, so huge supporter base that tunes in to watch you guys. And lastly, I'd like to thank you guys for putting this on, because if it wasn't for you guys, I don't think it would be nearly as fun as it is. You guys really add something to it with your broadcasting and officiating. So I really appreciate everything you guys do.
We definitely appreciate you, Brian, especially for joining us here tonight. And we look forward to hopefully talking to you up in the booth in Auto Club next week.
That's the plan, guys. Hopefully one more time before the end of the season.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. So have a good rest of your night, Brian, and we will talk to you later.
Hey, you too. Good night.
And that was your second place finisher, Brian Ferretta from Embry-Riddle. I'm going to throw it back to the booth with Alex for our third place finisher, Reese Bayham from Auburn.
Hey there, Reese. This is Alex and Brad in the CIL booth. You got a copy?
Loud and clear.
Well, tell you what, the theme of the night has been a tale of two races between, the opening almost 70 laps, clean and green, then a very restart-heavy back half of the race. And when we started seeing a little bit of attrition up at the front, your car really came alive and was up there in the mix the rest of the way. Talk to us a little bit about your night and what it was like trying to work your way to the front and then stay up front.
Yeah, I mean, that long run was a lot of fun. Everyone getting strung out. Just good to get some clean racing in. Felt really good about long run pace and where I was at with fuel. So I wish we could have gone green the whole way, but just see what it would have been like. But yeah, and then once the cautions started falling, it was just a matter of keeping the nose clean, surviving, and just not giving up too much track position with weird pit strategy or anything. Just it was good to race up front and be up front and good race.
It certainly, once you got up there, seemed like you were doing a bit of battling with that lead group, some scraps all throughout the top five. And was there any car out there on the racetrack tonight that you particularly enjoyed having the battle against? Or was it just a matter of, get out of my way, I'm making my way to the front?
I don't know. Me and Tyler Scozen kind of kept going back and forth on the restarts. Whoever was on the outside, it seemed like we'd get the spot, and we just kept trading back and forth. So that was a lot of fun. The rest of it there was just so many different cars racing around, especially at the end with all the restarts. Just trying to keep it clean and get a good finish. So.
And you ultimately were able to do that podium finish. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, first one, or really, I don't remember. Was it, you were right in the mix there at Michigan earlier this year? But
yeah, Michigan and Vegas, I think I was on it. But it's been a long time.
So. Yeah, it's been a couple of races, but it's a privilege to have you back up here in the booth, Reese. Continue to put that 334 in a spot to contend for the win. Anyone you'd like to shout out tonight on the podium finish?
Yeah, first of all, the glory goes to God for putting me here and giving me the opportunity to race. And secondly, Auburn teammates in the race, Ryan and Logan, I know they didn't have the races they wanted, but it's always good to have some familiar faces and teammates in the field every week. And then all my friends and family who are watching, supporting me, shout out to them.
Alrighty, well, Reese, thank you so much for dropping by. Congrats on the podium finish, and hopefully we will catch you next week at Auto Club.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
And that is your third place finisher here tonight, Reese Bayham in the 334 machine. And with that is just about going to do it here tonight from us here on the YumTwo College Cup Series. If we haven't said it already, want to just remind you one last time that this race was brought to you by YumTwo, the cooking app that brings couples closer. YumTwo, together tastes better. And with that, we are down to our final two races of the season. Next week, we are going to Auto Club Speedway in what should be a fantastic race. This car loves this track. It's a fantastic opportunity. Last 2-mile oval of the season before the Thanksgiving break, and then one more in December. Huge opportunity for some of these folks as these point standings got a heck of a lot tighter tonight after all three of the top three got wadded up early on in this race. So 4th and 5th reeling it in, and what used to be a 70-some point gap amongst the top 5 has shrunk now to only about a 50-point gap. Should be a good time for that. That race, by the way, that Auto Club race, November 17th, starts at 8:45 p.m. Eastern, green flag at 9. You won't want to miss it. As for upcoming races this week, we've got one more on the slate for you. Thursday night, the Formula College Series goes to the Red Bull Ring on November 13th. That show starting at 8:45 p.m. right here on the CIL YouTube. But for everyone here at the CIL, I want to thank you all for tuning into tonight's race. For all the admins, all the stewards, and everyone here at home, I want to thank producer Lee Kane, co-commentator Brad Daniels on what's been a fun race here tonight. Only 2 more left this season. We'll catch you next week at Auto Club. Thank you, and good night.